Chapter 26 Peeping from the Ghost. Levin gained a little fangirl and finally returned to Ravenclaw Tower with heavy steps. Even late at night, he still had to face the problem of the magic door knocker. What can be owned but not shared? Levin was already very tired, but such a question didn't bother him. A little thought gave me the answer. Lonely. That makes sense. The door opened, and Levin couldn't wait to get in. After running around all night and seeing the three-headed hell dog, he missed the soft bed in the dormitory more than ever. Suddenly, he stopped. He felt as if someone was staring at him. However, after looking around, Levin didn't find anyone, not even a ghost. But Levin believes that his intuition is not wrong. After learning about the prophecy school's specialization in a stargazing class, Levin discovered that he had received some strange inspiration. It appears from time to time and gives Levin intuitive hints that are correct most of the time. For example, the time he noticed Peeves ahead of time. This is the power of the magic of the prophecy school. So he drew his wand. In order to provide convenience for students who like to read, the magic candles in the Ravenclaw common room are kept on all night long. Levin can therefore see his surroundings very clearly. In the direction of the windowsill, the blue curtains were blowing in the wind, and it was obvious that there was no one behind them. The ceiling and carpet decorated with stars are also clearly visible. Bookshelves, chairs, fireplaces. Levin glanced around and found no trace of anyone. The night was very quiet, with the occasional sound of wind coming from the window. The tranquility of the night was so beautiful, but Levin could only feel chills standing on end. Even though everything has been checked, the feeling of being stared at hasn't gone away. Eventually, Levin's attention came to the white marble bust of Rowena Ravenclaw. Judging from the statue, it is indeed a beautiful witch. Young wizards always find her tense expression intimidating, but Levin can feel her seriousness for knowledge. The best thing is that this statue was created with ingenuity. No matter which direction you look at the statue, Rowena Ravenclaw's penetrating eyes seem to be staring at you. This is similar to the Mona Lisa. After walking around the statue, Levin was finally convinced that the guy staring at him was in this direction. I know you are hiding in the statue. Come out quickly. Levin pointed his wand at the statue of his college's founder. However, there was no response. Unfortunately, today's Levin has not learned any magic for reconnaissance. But he immediately thought that he was not only a magician, but also a psychic. What better way to detect such intangibles than psychic energy? You try to use psychic tentacles to detect the surroundings. You have a flash of inspiration and understand the technique of psychic detection. You have learned the second level, psychic sight. Due to your continuous training, your spiritual power has exceeded the limit, your psychic level +1, and you have learned psychic communication. Psychic vision. Create a sophisticated telepathic force field based on spiritual contact, allowing you to still see through feeling in complete darkness or when your vision is obscured by the material environment. Psychic communication. Ability to communicate psychically with non-hostile intelligent creatures. Feeling the sudden increase in psychic power, Levin was overjoyed and immediately used the newly learned psychic sight. At that moment, he discovered that his spirit seemed to be separated from his body and spread to the surroundings. No entity could stop the penetration of spiritual power, and everything within the range was under control. As the telekinesis field spread forward, he felt the presence hidden within Ravenclaw's bust. It was a spirit body and an unknown magical force. Miss Grey? Levin asked, choosing the power of teleportation. Is that you, Levin Green? What magic are you using to communicate with me? Even though Miss Grey was already a ghost, she was still shocked by Levin's hand. That's the power of the mind, Miss Grey. After explaining, Levin asked again, now that I have discovered you, Miss Grey, can you tell me why you are hiding in the statue and spying on me? Sorry, I'm just curious about you. Seeing that she had been exposed, the female ghost quickly floated out of the statue. Miss Grey is Ravenclaw's college ghost. Like her mother Ravenclaw, she is tall and beautiful. But unlike her mother's serious and wise temperament, Miss Grey is slightly arrogant. She almost never spoke to wizards from other houses, only occasionally answering questions from the eaglets. Levin Green, I know you. You are the best student of our Ravenclaw in the past few years. Many professors praise you, but I know that you are more talented than they imagined. In this statue, I have seen you use magic that I have never seen before more than once. I am very curious about you. As she said this, Miss Grey clung to the statue, as if she would hide in if something went wrong. After hearing this, Levin could somewhat understand her attitude. Miss Grey seemed to take him for that person. Decades ago, this female ghost had a bad experience, which made her wary of talented students like Levin. I understand. It turns out you have been spying on me in the statue. Levin's words made the female ghost blush with embarrassment. The ghost's body was actually grey. In fact, the magic I used was all created by myself. Everyone has their own secrets. No one stipulates that little wizards can't create magic, right? But what I'm curious about is, how did you end up inhabiting the statue of Miss Rowena Ravenclaw? Levin's rhetorical question hit the nail on the head. Through his psychic ability, He could feel the panic in the other person's heart after hearing this question. I just wanted to pay my respects to Miss Ravenclaw. I admire her very much. Miss Grey's words were no longer as strong as before. Levin revealed her thoughts straight away. No, you don't just admire Miss Ravenclaw. It's impossible for a ghost to live in a statue just because of admiration. You are not the real Miss Grey. Your true identity is Miss Ravenclaw's daughter, Helena Ravenclaw. How do you know? Grey, or rather, Miss Helena asked in surprise. Of course it's because I've read the original work. Of course, Levin couldn't really say that. I actually guessed it. Guessed it? I know my history. Levin explained. Miss Jane Grey was the grandniece of Henry VIII and the Queen of England who only reigned for 13 days. The date of her death was February 12, 1554, but according to Hogwarts, a school history, you appeared in the castle much earlier than that era. You can never be the real Miss Grey. Thinking of your similar appearance to Miss Ravenclaw, and your strange relationship with Bloody Barrow, I make a bold guess that you are Miss Ravenclaw's daughter. Listening to the 11-year-old wizard's methodical analysis, Helena Ravenclaw thought of the boy more than 40 years ago. They are equally smart, equally handsome, and equally eloquent. After a moment of confusion, Helena regained her composure. Your analysis is very reasonable. As you said, Rowena Ravenclaw is my biological mother. As her only descendant, it makes sense that I can inhabit her statue. Helena's tone was natural, but Levin immediately discovered the flaw in her words. In other words, it was a trap deliberately left in his previous words. Levin said that he guessed that Helena was Ravenclaw's daughter, so she could inhabit Ravenclaw's statue. In order to get rid of Levin as soon as possible, Helena directly admitted her identity and followed the trend. But in reality, Levin knew that ghosts cannot remain in entities for long. Ghosts are not moving pictures of Hogwarts. Although they can let themselves pass through the wall for a short time, they cannot hide inside it for a long time, even if it is a statue of her mother. Moaning Myrtle seems to be an exception, but the reason why she can stay in the toilet is because the toilet has pipes and there is space in it to stay. So, Helena was lying. So, why did she lie? What is she hiding? According to Levin's psychic reconnaissance, the statue is not hollow. Therefore, there is only one possibility for Helena to hide in the statue. That statue was cast with special magic. What is this magic? Levin immediately became interested. Slytherin can leave a secret room in the castle. There's no reason why Ravenclaw can't leave something behind. The entire castle was designed by her. Chapter 27. What happened 10 years ago? If you want to get a glimpse of Ravenclaw's secret, Helena in front of you is the biggest obstacle. Of course, she is also the best helper. So, Levin decided to express his feelings directly. Miss Helena, please don't hide it from me. I already know the secrets in this statue. Levin's speech made the female ghost panic. How did you know? No, you are overthinking. This is just an ordinary statue. There is no secret. Seeing that the other party would not shed tears without touching the coffin, Levin sighed, took out the magic spell, and pointed lightly at the statue. Identification technique. Unfortunately, because the level of magic hidden in the statue was too high and Levin's level was not high enough, their identification technique was not successful this time. However, even the failed appraisal technique still exerted its most basic effect. A faint blue magic aura emerged from the statue, proving that it was indeed a magic item. This is the detected magic reaction. Levin looked at her calmly. Seeing that Levin had already produced evidence, Helena sighed and had no choice but to admit, well, you're right, I can stay in this statue because of the magic. But I didn't lie. I can enter this statue precisely because I'm her daughter. Oh? Where did this start? Levin's curiosity was aroused. Actually, this statue was not like this from the beginning. Helena spoke in a very sad tone. After my mother's death for thousands of years, this statue has been placed here to serve as a reminder of my longing for my mother. But since 10 years ago, I seem to be able to vaguely hear the statue exchanging me. I tried asking the little wizard and even other ghosts, but I am the only one who can hear this call, and only I can answer the call and enter the statue, etc. Levin suddenly interrupted her statement. You just said that it started like this 10 years ago? It was 10 years ago again. Levin noticed something was wrong. It is said that the water ghost appeared 10 years ago. Is there any connection between the two? What exactly happened 10 years ago? Levin hid this doubt in his heart and asked Helena again, how do you feel in the statue? I felt a strong longing. Helena closed her eyes gently, seeming to be reminiscing. The emotion of longing was so strong that it made people feel like they were missing her, just like a mother missing her child. I think this feeling comes from my mother. No wonder she stayed in there all day. Levin suddenly realized, female ghosts also need love and warmth. Then do you know where this power comes from? Levin asked. I don't know. Helena shook her head, her eyes blank. It's like it appeared overnight. I'm just a ghost, with my ability. I have no clue. But I want to figure it all out. There may be something hidden here that my mother left for me. After hearing this, Levin made a decision. He looked at Helena and gave her the gentlest smile. At the same time, turn on the aura of charming humanity to the maximum. You seem to need help. His tone was gentle and considerate, and I am a Ravenclaw, and I am proud of my house. If a descendant of the college's founder needs help with anything, I would be happy to help. Maybe you are right. You are indeed an excellent Ravenclaw, a student selected according to my mother's standards. But there once was a young man who was very similar to you. He was just as good and as graceful. He tried to persuade me the same way, but in the end, he lied to me. Speaking of this, Helena's expression became angry, and the expression on her transparent face was a little distorted. Of course Levin knew. He was talking about Voldemort during his student days. By tricking Helena, Voldemort found Ravenclaw's diadem and made it into a Horcrux. But Levin needs to pretend not to know. So, what is his name? Which college is he a student from? There is a mystery behind his words, hinting at the differences between Helena herself and the other person. As if awakened by Levin's words, Helena's expression softened. The female ghost glanced at the boy's charming face and decided to continue. I can't say that name, no one dares to say it. But I can tell you that there is his trophy in the trophy room. Levin understands her fear and caution. It was Voldemort after all, and the entire wizarding world was afraid to speak his name. He had cast a spell on his name, and if anyone read it he would know it. Even though he has disappeared for so long now, his residual poison still deeply affects the current magical world, even if it is a ghost. But since Helena is willing to speak, it means that she is still willing to trust him. So Levin continued to hint, but, I am very honest with you. I didn't cheat on you, right? This is also Tom Riddle's flaw. He always likes to use intrigues and rely on violence and fraud to achieve his goals. Levin prefers to rely on conspiracy and manipulate people's hearts through concealment rather than lies. You are right, but... no. You are different from him. The expression on Helena's face changed several times, and finally softened, and her eyes when looking at Levin were no longer resistant. Okay, you are right. I am willing to believe you. Levin can sense the other person's expectations, as well as the pitiful uneasiness and prayers like a small animal. She hoped that Levin could really help her, and prayed that she would not be betrayed by her new friends again. Levin nodded and responded to her uneasiness. Don't worry, Helena, I won't be like that person. You are the student chosen by your mother, I believe in you. Helena nodded. Then, let me tell you my guess. I felt that it would take something important to inspire the secret of the statue. It was my mother's treasure. Generations of students have forced me to reveal its whereabouts. No one can resist its attraction, she said in an aria-like tone. It was my mother's crown, containing all her knowledge and wisdom, but that man cheated it from me. I see. I have a clue after hearing what you said. Levin nodded. It turned out that if he wanted to discover the secret, he had to find Ravenclaw's crown. He knew very well where Ravenclaw's crown was. He entered it there the second day after arriving at Hogwarts, the storage room in the Room of Requirement. He can get it anytime he wants. But the crown at this time was Voldemort's Horcrux, with all kinds of terrible black magic applied to it. If it was just to destroy the Horcrux, Levin wouldn't be able to do it. No matter how strong the defense of a Horcrux is, it is just a magic item. It can be destroyed by weapons with magic-breaking properties. Although Levin has neither the fangs of the basilisk nor the sword of Gryffindor, but he has the low-level god-killing spell, Micrometeor. Relying on the forced penetration damage of Micrometeor, even if it is an artifact, he can wear it down bit by bit. However, for the crown to be useful in solving the mystery of the statue, it is likely that the crown would need to be kept intact. This is a bit troublesome. Levin currently does not have such means. But it doesn't matter, he has understanding. If we can have soul-related research as a reference, it is not impossible to understand how to deal with souls. But if you want to find this kind of book in the library, you have to at least enter the restricted book area. Thinking of this, Levin had a plan. The first step is to find a way to enter the forbidden book area. So, he looked at Helena. Thank you for your suggestion. I have a clue now, but further research is needed. Please wait for me for a while. Of course, Mr. Green. Helena smiled when she learned that there was hope. There is always enough time for ghosts. After the two of them reached an agreement, it was time to go to bed. Before leaving, Helena suddenly reminded, I remember you were exploring the power of the mind. The human mind is the most fragile and uncontrollable place. Rash exploration can easily cause irreparable consequences. I think you should wait for years. Try this a little longer. Thank you for the reminder. Levin accepted her kindness. In fact, his exploration of psychic abilities is based on his own understanding and the profession of psychic. Without a career framework, Levin would not dare to attack his own spirit casually. Saying goodbye to this new friend, Levin returned to the dormitory and fell asleep. Chapter 28 Recommendation from Cirila. The next morning, Levin got up as usual and went to the auditorium on time for breakfast. Staying up late one night did not affect his normal routine. As the owls flew into the auditorium as usual, everyone's attention was drawn to the slender package carried by 6 long-eared owls. Who would have thought that the owl flew to Gryffindor's long table, and several owls circled down and landed right in front of Harry Potter. Levin could see the joy on Harry's face as he received a broomstick, the Nimbus 2000 inches. He understood that this was Harry Potter's first step on the road to Quidditch. But Levin soon discovered that he also had letters. As usual, Herma dropped by to ask for breakfast and play with him. But when the eagle owl landed in front of him, Levin discovered that there was an unexpected note on the little guy's paw. The note came from Professor Flitwick. asking Levin to find him after dinner. "Why does Professor Flitwick want me?" Levin was a little confused, but he quickly finished the last fries. In Phileas Flitwick's office, the short professor was smiling as usual. "Mr. Green, I'm glad you can come. Everyone sees your performance after the start of school. I'm very happy that another talented wizard has come to Ravenclaw. No matter what subject you perform very well. Even Mrs. Pins from the library praised you highly. But I want to say that besides studying, there are many interesting things waiting for little wizards like you to try. If your only media is studying, you will get bored in the long run, which is not good for you." Professor Flitwick spoke carefully and thoughtfully. "Thank you, Professor Flitwick. I will pay attention. But I want to say that reading is the best enjoyment for me," Levin replied. Levin understands that humans prefer immediate gratification and hate delayed gratification. Public learning is a typical form of delayed gratification, which is why there are so many people who are tired of learning. But for a genius like Levin, reading and learning is essentially instant gratification. As long as you see it, you can remember it, and as long as you get started, you can learn it. When you have such a talent, the immediate sense of gain and accomplishment brought by learning is irresistible. But he also has to admit that Professor Flitwick is a responsible dean. He not only pays attention to students' academic studies, but also pays attention to their ideological lives. He is indeed a rare and good teacher. After hearing Levin's answer, Flitwick looked at him with more admiration. "You are so studious at such a young age. You were much better than me back then. No wonder you performed so well in just 1 week." He paused and suddenly asked, "But you also need to pay attention to things other than studying. For example, are you interested in Quidditch?" At this point, Professor Flitwick finally came to an end. "Quidditch?" Levin rolled his eyes and immediately made a guess. This is probably related to Harry being taken through the back door by Professor McGonagall. However, he still said deliberately, "I have to remind you, Professor, first years are not allowed to bring broomsticks or join the Quidditch team." Yes, that's the rule," Professor Flitwick said, showing an intriguing smile. "But I heard yesterday that Harry Potter of Gryffindor was specially recruited to become the youngest child in a century's seeker. And you, Mr. Green, you're as good at flying lessons as he is. The most important thing is that Miss Lian strongly recommended you to me." Lian? Levin started searching for this last name in his mind. "Cirila Fiona Lian? Xili actually recommended him?" Flitwick continued. "Miss Ray Allen is the chaser of the Ravenclaw team. Ravenclaw's Quidditch performance has improved a lot since her arrival. I have always been happy to refer to her opinions." Speaking of Quidditch, Professor Flitwick's eyes lit up. "But Miss Lian alone can't save Ravenclaw. We haven't won the Quidditch championship trophy for a long time. After learning about your performance in flying lessons, Miss Lian believes that you are the last chance to win the Ravenclaw championship. It's a piece of the puzzle, and I couldn't agree more." Sure enough, Levin was specially recruited to join the Ravenclaw Quidditch team. To be honest, although Levin likes flying, he has never touched Quidditch. Being a mole, he didn't have much interest in Quidditch either. But considering that this was recommended by Ciri, he felt that he should agree. On the one hand, he just wanted to get to know Cirila, this girl who should not appear in the world of Harry Potter, and figure out why she appeared. Originally, since the two of them were strangers, Levin did not contact him rashly. Joining a Quidditch team is an obvious way to go. On the other hand, Quidditch is indeed very popular among wizards. If you want to increase your influence, being a Quidditch star is more effective than being a top student. Crumb of Durmstrang has a group of fanatical admirers wherever he goes. As he masters more and more arcane magic, Levin can no longer restrain himself and wants to show off his edge and bring some small changes to the magical world. Agreeing to teach Hermione magic is a start. Becoming a recognized academic leader and joining a Quidditch team will help achieve this goal. After careful analysis, Levin nodded vigorously. "Of course, Professor Flitwick, I'd like to join the team." "Great. Come on then, kid. I'll take you to the Quidditch team." "I remember they requested training this morning." Professor Flitwick took Levin out of the office, and encountered a little lion quarreling with a little snake on the way. "This isn't some old broomstick. It's a Nimbus 2000. What did you say you had at home, Malfoy?" "Comet 260. Levin heard Ronald Weasley's proud voice. "Comets are quite dazzling, just right for a coward like you who has no glory. But they are not on the same level as light wheels." Malfoy's retort came next, and his voice was just as sharp. "It's you, Weasley, who spread the rumor. You pure-blood shame. You are just jealous of our family's glory, so you want to discredit it. You poor guy who can't even get a broom handle. I guess you and your brothers have to save it branch by branch." Sure enough, Levin's suggestion came into effect. Malfoy's words were indeed sharp, but Levin could hear the impotent rage in them. Originally, Levin wanted to enjoy this wonderful mutual exchange for a while longer, but the conscientious Professor Flitwick had already stepped forward to stop both parties. "I hope it's not a quarrel, kids." Someone brought Potter a broomstick. "Professor," Draco Malfoy complained hurriedly. Yes, that's right," Professor Flitwick said, smiling broadly at Harry. "Professor McGonagall told me all the special circumstances of the situation." "Mr. Potter, what model did you get?" "Nimbus 2000, sir. Harry said. Seeing the horrified expression on Malfoy's face, he tried desperately not to laugh. I got it thanks to Malfoy, he added. If Malfoy hadn't stolen Neville's memory ball, Harry wouldn't have had the chance to become a Gryffindor. Congratulations, Mr. Potter, Flitwick said, turning to Levin. Mr. Green, you will receive the same gift soon. In this regard, he did not wish to let Professor McGonagall take precedence. After hearing this, Levin felt surprised. Do you actually have a share in it? He smiled slightly and said to Professor Flitwick, thank you, Professor. Then he turned to Malfoy. It seems that I have to thank you too. Then, he left with Professor Flitwick under Malfoy's confused eyes. Chapter 29 Tacit Understanding on the Court. When Levin arrived on the field, it was not Roger Davis, captain of the Ravenclaw Quidditch team, waiting for him, but his recommender, Cirila. This grey-haired girl is tall, with soft and tight lines. Levin had to admit that even in the flower-like Ravenclaw, she was still a rare and beautiful girl. But in terms of temperament, she is different from most Ravenclaw girls Levin has met. Her short grey hair was pulled back casually, and the tight-fitting clothes she wore for exercise made her even more heroic. She was holding a broomstick and stepping on a big box, like a graceful and vigorous cheetah, ready to go. She is indeed Gerald's adopted daughter, the female Witcher in the original novel. Even though he is now a wizard, he can still see a trace of his former demon hunter style. Hey, Professor Flitwick, Mr. Levin Green, here. Almost at the same time, Ciri also spotted them and waved to them in the sunshine. The rest is up to you, Mr. Green, behave well. Professor Flitwick patted Levin's shoulder encouragingly and walked toward the castle. Levin took 3 steps at a time and came to Cirila's side. The girl patted her shoulder enthusiastically. Hi, Mr. Green, this isn't the first time we've met, huh? Levin understood that she was referring to the first day of school. At that time, I accidentally called her name out of shock. But Levin was not embarrassed at all, and said openly, you are right, senior sister Lan Lan. It is also the first time for me to see a senior sister with grey hair and such a beautiful girl. I was a little surprised for a moment. Call me Cirila, or Ciri, Mr. Green, so I can call you Levin. Ciri covered her mouth happily after being praised by the handsome boy. By the way, I thought you'd be stronger. That's because I didn't have time to cast the attribute enhancement spell. Levin pouted. Of course, Ciri, nice to meet you. Just a simple greeting made the distance between the two of them much closer. Then, Ciri kicked the edge of the wooden box with a cool kick. The lid of the box popped open, revealing the Quidditch props inside. Mr. Green, do you know about Quidditch? Ciri asked. It's not the level of understanding that fans have. I'm a mole, Shirley. I only got rid of the magic this summer. Levin replied with a wry smile. I only know that the red ball is the quaffle. The chasers pass the quaffle around and try to thread it through. Each time you pass the opponent's ring, you will get 10 points. And the goalkeeper is responsible for guarding your team's ring. Shiri soon discovered that the boy in front of her was not simple. Although he claims to have never touched Quidditch, he knows the rules of Quidditch very well. He described the basic rules, the purpose of each golf equipment, the responsibilities of each position, the specifications of the golf course, and even some basic tactics. Although his understanding of them still remains in words. These are all things I learned from books. Finally, Levin added, the books Levin stored in the database happen to contain Quidditch-related knowledge. I've always heard that Ravenclaw has a genius this year, but it's only after I experienced it myself that I realized that you really deserve it. Cili sighed. It seems that you don't need to make up for the theoretical lessons. To be honest, we most players at Ravenclaw may not know more about Quidditch than you do. Then, let's start the practical test directly. Professor Flitwick said that he will buy you a new broom personally. Before that, you can use mine first. With that said, she handed the broom in her hand to Levin and winked at him, sweeping 7 stars. Professor Flitwick gave it to me when I joined the team. You must treat it well. After hearing this, Levin immediately grasped the message contained in it. Professor Flitwick will give himself a broomstick, but this is by no means the norm. Most of the people on the team bought their own brooms, mostly because he was born in a mole orphanage and there was no wizarding family behind him to provide the funds to buy a broom. Plus, he does have Quidditch talent, so it's worth spending some money on it. Harry probably had the same reason. The fact that Ciri received this gift in the first place probably means that she was in a similar situation to him when she came to Hogwarts. This further illustrates that Ciri, like him, is an outsider to the world of Harry Potter. Levin nodded, turned round, waved his wand to himself under Ciri's curious gaze, and then got on the broom. A set of 3 consecutive sets of Bear's Tenacity, Ox's Power, and Cat's Elegance have been cast. Immediately afterwards, Ciri released a shiny black bludger. It had been struggling in the box before. As soon as the bludger was free, it quickly hit Levin in the face. Levin picked up a bat from the box and swung it hard. With the blessing of Bull Power, Levin's 7 points of strength were increased to 12 points, completely surpassing that of an adult. The bludger was instantly knocked away, whizzing towards the goal post, and then accurately passed through the hoop, as if it was not a heavy bludger, but a deft quaffle. Well done, Levin, You are stronger than I thought. I was wrong before. Before Ciri could finish speaking, the unwilling bludger hit her from the sky again, but this time it was aimed at her head. Naturally, Ciri didn't show any fear. She rushed over, grabbed the bludger, and forced it into the box regardless of its struggle. This skill is almost comparable to that of myself with buffs. No wonder she became a witcher. You have the potential to be a hitter, Ciri said, but let's see what you have at other positions. So next, Ciri asked Levin to fly around the court twice and try some difficult flying moves, and Levin completed them perfectly. Then comes the chaser test. Ciri asked Levin to cooperate with him in a series of complex passes and tactical moves. For example, reverse pass, poke-off spaiting technique, etc. This kind of technique that requires the cooperation of companions cannot be accomplished by physical fitness alone. This is where Levin's Shin abilities come into play. Although he has not yet mastered the ability to detect thoughts, he can already read some simple emotions. Levin knows exactly when Ciri is ready to pass the ball and when it is inconvenient to catch the ball. This directly makes the two people cooperate with each other in a tacit understanding. On the Quidditch pitch, when Shirley saw this boy catch his legend again without looking back, a subtle feeling arose inside her. This boy not only has excellent reflexes, keen observation, and agility, but he can also connect with her for the first time. Maybe he is the teammate God gave him. They were born to play Quidditch together. When the two finished the test, Shirley could no longer hold back her excitement and held Levin's hand. Come on, Levin, how about becoming a chaser with me? Although with your talent, you are good at any position, but I think you are most suitable as a chaser. If you were here, this year's Quidditch Cup would be Ravenclaw. As if she was afraid of something unexpected, she added, in addition to you, we also recruited a very talented player this year. Roger wants her to be a seeker because she is very cute. In order to be his teammate, Ciri directly gave away the most attractive seeker position, and also brought Roger in as an excuse. But Levin believes that if Shirley really wants to decide something, even Captain Roger Davis has to listen. After all, it is the Sintra Young Lions. Levin was not surprised by Ciri's reaction. In other words, this is what he did intentionally. With his psychic abilities, he can still have a tacit understanding even if he has an idiot as his teammate. However, this tacit understanding will only be given to Ciri by Levin. His calculation is very clear. One of the 4 pillars of life is carrying the gun together. The strongest friendship is when we fight side by side. Playing side by side on the court has a similar effect. And if there is still a tacit understanding between comrades in arms, then the friendship will be twice as strong. And when his relationship with Shirley is close enough, some secrets involving his life and origin can be asked. Not to mention, Xili's appearance potential alone is indeed worthy of Levin's friendship. Therefore, Levin readily agreed to Ciri and officially became the chaser of the Ravenclaw Quidditch team. In the next period of time, Levin also became busy. As the course progresses, normal schoolwork naturally becomes more and more arduous. He still spends most of his spare time in the library. But in addition, Levin also has to participate in Quidditch training 3 times a week, as well as one-on-one tutoring sessions with Hermione on the weekends. Except for finding no chance to enter the Forbidden Book area, my life was very fulfilling. Chapter 30 Evocation Magic and Professional Level. Levin, you fly really well. I think they should make you a seeker. After a training match, the little wizards returned to the castle together, and Anthony Goldstein, who had been watching before, was indignant. You discovered that the Golden Snitch is much faster than Kujang, just because she is beautiful? Terry Butt on the other side also said. Indeed, Janku is very beautiful, but how does she compare with senior sister Cirila? Levin asked, shrugging. Of course, senior sister Cirila is better. In terms of appearance, no one in the entire Ravenclaw can compare to Cirila. Terry Butt didn't think twice. Yeah, I think so too. Levin crossed his shoulders and said quietly, so you see where I am and where Cirila is. You, like Cirila, are both chasers. Oh, I get it. Terry Butt suddenly understood and looked at Levin with surprise. The first to get the moon is the one closest to the water. You are worthy of it, Levin. Anthony patted Levin hard on the shoulder. Not only is he good at studying and playing Quidditch, but he is also so good at picking up girls. He is really Alexander as your roommate, Steve said in a funny tone. Levin shook his head, unwilling to pay attention to these classmates who were full of dirty things. However, after 2 months of practice, Levin's flying level and Quidditch skills continued to improve. The cooperation with Xili on the court is even more perfect. The young wizards who have watched their training all feel that with their presence, Ravenclaw will definitely win the Quidditch Cup this year. In the process, the relationship between Levin and Shirley became closer. If things continue at this pace, maybe it won't be long before they can be honest with each other. Suddenly, Levin seemed to remember something and asked, by the way, is Halloween tomorrow? Steve nodded slightly. Yes. Today is Halloween. I heard that the school has a very rich dinner. Tirixing on the side answered hurriedly, I heard reliable news that Dumbledore invited a famous skeleton dance troupe to perform this year. Halloween. Levin nodded. Halloween is a traditional festival in the Western world. Celebrations usually take place at night. Children will put on costumes and masks and go from house to house collecting candies. That is the Western Ghost Festival. In the world of Harry Potter, Halloween is an important day every year. It's not because of the Halloween dinner, but because something is going to happen at Hogwarts before this time. For example, this year, will the troll from the original work appear? Levin got a little excited thinking about it. He hasn't seen the troll yet. It is said that this is a large humanoid creature with strong magic resistance. They have amazing strength but very low intelligence. It is difficult for ordinary magic spells to harm it. The troll is very violent and often attacks for no reason. Coupled with its strong magic resistance, it is a dangerous creature for wizards. But Levin wanted to know it. For this, he was somewhat prepared. Since magic is difficult to take effect on trolls, why not try using indirect damage caused by magic? For example, elemental power is generated through magic, and then the elemental power is used to harm the troll. To put it bluntly, it is elemental magic. This kind of magic is not developed in the world of Harry Potter, except for the most basic, fire-making curse, flame-blazing, and freezing curse. There is no achievement. The only more powerful, fire curse, relies on the ability of black magic to burn everything, rather than the power of elemental magic itself. It just so happened that during the past 2 months, Flitwick taught the fire-making spell. Levin quickly understood burning hands after learning, and based on this, he began to study elemental spells. So far, he has been quite effective. After burning hands, in order to master the templates of attack and defense spells, Levin also learned armor charm and disarming charm, and based on these, combined with burning hands, he created the 2-ring, scorching heat ray, 3-level, fireball, and other fire element spells. Then he followed the same pattern, based on freezing curse, and studied 0-level, freeze ray, 1-level, ice arrow, 2-level, frost armor, 3-level, frost nova, etc. In the process of research, he understood the specialization of the Evocation school. Now his properties panel is as follows. Name, Levin Green. Race, human. Level, LV4 Wizard/LV Tuition. Attributes, Strength, 8. Constitution, 8. Agility, 9. Intelligence, 16. Perception, 12. Charisma, 14. Expertise, Heaven-defying comprehension, Psychic power LV2, Magic power LV4, Magic resistance LV2, Magic potion proficiency, Transformation school specialization, Prophecy school specialization, Evocation school specialization. Spells, Level 0, Reading magic, Constant, Cleansing charm, Whirlwind sweeping charm, Levitation charm, Dancing lights, Scribe, Flying charm, Freeze ray. First level, Hide thoughts, Cutting charm, Charm person, Constant, Speak with animals, Constant, Know languages, Scholar's touch, Identify, Mind stab, Fire charm, Freeze charm, Burning hands, Ice bolt, Armor curse. Level 2, Restoration charm, Bear's fortitude, Ox's strength, Cat's grace, Eagle's majesty, Fox's cunning, Owl's wisdom, Invisibility, Psychic detection, Telepathy, Searing ray, Frost armor, Disarming charm. Level 3, Daylight, Micrometeor, Fireball, Frost nova. Ring 4, Dimensional anchor. In 2 months, Levin's strength, durability, and agility attributes increased by 1. Although it does not reach the 10 points of the human average, it is still higher than that of its peers. According to his analysis, this is probably because his body is already in the growth stage, and he repeatedly used attribute strengthening spells on himself, causing his body to adapt to the post-growth state in advance, so he grew ahead of schedule. Levin knows that what he gains from this growth is the power he would gain when he grows up normally. You can only grow to your adult level at most, and then your attributes will no longer improve. If you want to break through the limit, you have to rely on permanent elixirs. Additionally, Levin's intelligence attribute is increased by 2. This is the result of reaching level 4 in the wizard profession. Before advancing to level 20 legend, for every 4 levels of professional level improvement, the relevant attributes will increase by 2 points. Based on Levin's observations during this time, he speculated that there are 2 ways to improve a wizard's level. The first is the natural growth of age. Unlike mages in the arcane magic system, the wizards in the world of Harry Potter should be a combination of algorithmists and warlocks. Like warlocks, their spellcasting ability comes entirely from the power of their blood, and they do not need additional preparation before casting. Like a mage, you can master more spells through learning. It can be said that he has the strengths of both a mage and a warlock. If a spellcaster from the WoW or D&D world saw it, he would be so jealous that he would turn purple with envy. Since they have the best of both worlds, wizards can naturally grow stronger and stronger like warlocks. According to Levin's observation, All new students are basically level 1 wizards. But after joining Hogwarts, level growth depends entirely on personal talent and hard work. It is possible that some young wizards can reach LV3 wizards in their second year. But there are also wizards who are in their 5th year and still lingering at LV3. Compared with grades, the 5th year Ordinary Wizarding Level Examination, OWL, and the 7th grade Ultimate Wizarding Test, an EWT, are more representative of professional levels. Young wizards need to reach LV4 to barely pass the OWL, and excellent candidates can even reach LV6. If you want to pass the NEWT, you must be at least 2 LV5 wizard. Candidates who can get 7 or 8, that is, excellent, in the NEWT can usually reach a wizard level of LV8. Of course, this is just a general reference and does not include those outside the rules skies. For example, the actual combat effectiveness of the trio in the original work far exceeds their test scores. Another example is Snape and Voldemort. One of them opened the Chamber of Secrets and made Horcruxes in the 5th grade, and the other invented a series of black magic in the 5th grade. Their magic level exceeded that of some professors. The errors of the Ministry of Magic are probably between LV11 and LV15. As for the professors at Hogwarts, the gap between them is relatively large. Similar to Trelawney and Divination, Mrs. Hooch in Flying Lessons, the wizard level is not even LV10. Experts like Professor McGonagall, Professor Flitwick, and Snape are well above LV15. Based on Levin's current ability, it is not possible to determine the specific level. As for Dumbledore, no need to think about it, he is a complete LV20 legend. Levin estimates that in today's wizarding world, not counting the mysterious East, only Grindelwald, Dumbledore and Voldemort have reached LV20. Chapter 31 The Bison on Halloween. As for the second way to upgrade, that is to learn to develop more spells and tap your own magic potential like a mage. After all, reality is not about playing games, so how can you defeat monsters and upgrade? Even his so-called attribute panel is just a numerical summary of his own situation. A mage's strength comes from the growth of knowledge and the exploration of the magic network. Naturally, the more knowledge, the more powerful he is. Learning new spells is easier to level up than refining a single spell, and creating new spells is easier to level up than learning new spells. Levin also has an advantage in this regard, that is, his knowledge and insights will not be limited to the world of Harry Potter. This means that new spells can be created with a little insight. Even though these spells already existed in all the worlds, to him, to the world of Harry Potter, these were new spells he created. According to his estimation, as long as he learns 20 more 1-level spells, or creates 10 1-level spells, or creates 5 2-level spells, he can rise to Wizard LV5. In short, the more he learns, the more he comprehends, and the more he innovates, the faster he becomes stronger. Before the Halloween dinner, Levin had to take a spell lesson. This class teaches the levitation spell, which Levin already knows. But this does not prevent him from gaining something in class. Okay, don't forget that subtle wrist movement we've been training. Professor Flitwick stood on his pile of books as usual and said sharply, 1 wave and 1 shake. Remember, 1 wave and 1 shake. It's also very important to say the spell correctly. Don't forget the wizard Barufio, who said the F instead of an S and found himself lying on the floor with a buffalo on his chest. The little wizards burst into laughter, and the classroom was filled with joy. Boom! Before their laughter ended, a loud noise came from the center of the classroom. A huge bison appeared out of thin air in the classroom and blocked the corridor in the center of the professor. Regardless of their surprise, the little wizards all came forward to watch. Oh, who did this? Professor Flitwick asked loudly, but his tone was not angry. It's me, Professor. Among the crowd, Levin raised his hand. I thought it was just a joke, but I didn't expect. He pointed at the bison. I didn't expect this to be true. He waved his magic wand to cancel the summons of the bison, and then used a repair spell to restore the messy tables and chairs around him to their original state. Beautiful spell. Professor Flitwick nodded to him appreciatively and commented, I think you just invented a buffalo spell, but now is not the time to talk about it. He clapped his hands and called the little wizard's attention back to the levitation spell. But obviously, the influence of Bison Curse has not been eliminated. The little wizards all think that Levin's skills are really cool. Many people are looking at Levin with interest, trying to find opportunities to learn this skill from him. But they didn't know that Levin had invented more than just a buffalo curse. When he summoned the bison, Levin felt something in his heart. You have learned their buffalo summoning spell. You are proficient in arcane magic. You have understood the core concept of summoning, and you have made upgrades. Your buffalo summoning spell is upgraded to monster summoning, and your school of conjuration has reached the professional level. Monster summoning technique. You can summon monsters across planes to fight for you. The plane here usually refers to the attached plane, such as heaven, hell, etc., and cannot really cross the heavens and the world. What the School of Conjuration studies is the spell of summoning and creating matter, and monster summoning technique is the most basic summoning technique. The monster summoning spell can summon various monsters, and Bison is just one of them. Although the spell itself is level 1, As the caster level increases, this spell can also be used in a higher level way. The higher the ring skill, the stronger the monsters summoned. Additionally, there are many variations of this spell. For example, Summon Undead can summon undead creatures from the underworld. Celestial Covenant can summon angels and other celestial creatures, and Dragon Covenant can summon dragon beasts and giant dragons. In short, because of an accident, Levin actually started the Conjuration school route, and Levin was very happy. All goes well for the next course. Apart from Levin, only Hermione successfully used the levitating spell, and Gryffindor's Seamus caused another explosion. Unfortunately, the little girl got into a conflict with Ronald while trying to teach him, and left to get out of class in tears. Levin shook his head. Is this the end of fate? It seems that you have to pay attention to protecting others when practicing today. As soon as the charms class ended, the little wizards quickly went downstairs to the auditorium. After attending classes all afternoon, everyone was hungry. Especially on this Halloween night, the sweet smell of pumpkin is still wafting through the hallways. When everyone walked into the restaurant, they were pleasantly surprised to find that the restaurant was decorated with colorful Halloween decorations that made it weird and dazzling. On the ceiling of the auditorium, there was a large group of bats flying around the wall. From time to time, a lone one would hit the wall and disappear. They are all conjured by magic. A large number of pumpkins carved with grimaces were piled against the wall, and some pumpkins were turned into lamps and floated in midair together with bats. The delicious food suddenly appeared on the golden plate, just like at the banquet at the beginning of school. Levin, you look hungry today? At the dinner table, Steve looked at Levin who was eating and asked in surprise. Except for the first day of school, the other party was not usually like this. He was used to seeing Levin chew his food slowly, so why did the other party look like him today? Levin glanced at him and said while chewing, occasionally, I feel that the sun is shining in the sky. I have a feeling that something will happen today. Then he continued to work on the mutton pie in front of him. Then you can't eat so fast. Steve couldn't help but shake his head when he saw the other person stuffing another mouthful of salad into his mouth. It's simply more exaggerated than me. In less than 20 minutes, Levin was already full of wine and food. He wiped his mouth and looked at the Gryffindor table. Harry and his good friend Ronald were enjoying a meal, but Hermione was not there. Looking at the teacher's table again, Professor Quirrell was not there either. So he stood up and whispered to Steve, I'm going to use the bathroom. Steve was stunned. Did you digest it so quickly today? Levin didn't care what he was thinking. He left his seat and walked straight towards the classroom below. When he came to the stairs, Levin did not rush down. Instead, he hid himself behind a statue, cast invisibility on himself, and then hid quietly until he saw Professor Quirrell Quirrell running up from downstairs, passing in front of him and running straight towards the auditorium. After confirming that Professor Quirrell disappeared from sight, Levin emerged from behind the statue and walked down the stairs to look for the troll. The auditorium at this time, in full view of teachers and students. Professor Quirrell suddenly rushed in. His big scarf was worn crookedly on his head, and his face was full of horror. Everyone stared at him. He walked to Professor Dumbledore's chair, leaned on the table, and gasped, the troll, in the underground classroom, thought you should know. After saying that, he fell to the floor and passed out. Chapter 32 Trolls and Super Speed Regeneration. I heard that there was a troll hiding in Hogwarts, and there was chaos in the auditorium. Dumbledore had to make several piercing pyrotechnic explosions of his wand over his head before everyone fell silent. Prefect, the headmaster of Hogwarts said in a low voice, take the students from your house to the dormitories immediately. On Ravenclaw's side, female prefect No Cravat immediately stood up and announced loudly, Ravenclaw students follow me. Steve immediately grabbed a piece of pumpkin pie and followed obediently. When the team was about to start moving, he suddenly thought of Levin who was going to the toilet. Looking around to see that the other party hadn't come back yet, he immediately found the female prefect. It's broken. Miss Cravat, Levin just went to the toilet. He must not have heard the warning about the troll. Finlow was shocked when he heard this and hurriedly sent someone to find the professor. At this time, Levin had already entered the underground classroom. As soon as he came out of the corridor and turned in a different direction, a stench penetrated his nostrils. It was the smell of smelly socks mixed with public toilets that were never cleaned. Then he heard a low grunt and the sound of huge feet dragging on the ground. Levin looked up and saw a huge creature slowly approaching. This giant monster is 12 feet tall, with dull skin as grey as granite. Its huge and stupid body is like a pile of huge gravel, with a small head like a cocoa bean on top. Its short legs are as thick as tree stumps, and beneath them are large, flat, thick, calloused feet. The smell emanating from it was disgusting, and it was holding a thick wooden stick in its hand, which was dragging on the ground because of its long arms. At this time, the troll was stopping by a door and peering inside. Levin saw at a glance that a sign at the door read, Women's Restroom. If nothing else, Hermione stayed inside. Without any pause, Levin strode forward and got into the toilet one step ahead of the troll. The troll did not notice the invisible little wizard, but snorted in confusion when Levin passed by him. Entering the bathroom, Levin immediately saw Miss Granger huddled in the corner. Don't blame her for being so miserable. At this time, she is not the future witch who will lead two useless men to fight Death Eaters head-on. She is just an 11-year-old girl. Levin stepped forward, covered her mouth directly, and then whispered in the frightened girl's ear, "It's me." Now, the nervous Hermione felt relieved a little. She whispered in a trembling voice, "Is it ... is it you, Levin? You came to save me." "It's me." Levin held her hand comfortingly and asked, "How are you now? Can you stand up?" "Yes ... but my feet are a little weak." Hermione grabbed Levin's arm and finally stood up. "So, can you cast spells?" Levin continued to ask. "You learned invisibility last week. Now is the time to practice it. Give it a try." Hermione nodded, pulled her wand out of her pocket with a trembling hand, and pointed it at herself. Invisibility technique. Magic swept through the body. In Levin's eyes, the girl instantly became completely transparent. But before the girl could get happy, the invisibility effect began to disappear. First the feet, then the body. Less than a second later, Hermione reappeared in front of Levin. "I'm sorry," the little witch said with a cry in her voice. "I'm too nervous and can't maintain the magic." "You still haven't practiced enough. Remember to practice more when you go back." Levin sighed and pointed his wand at the other person. Invisibility technique. Hermione became transparent again without further incident, and Levin reappeared. The level 2, invisibility technique, has a shortcoming. That is, you cannot actively cast spells or make other drastic actions during the duration, otherwise the invisibility state will be cancelled. This shortcoming was not made up for until level 4, advanced invisibility. The sound of continuous chanting in the women's restroom made the troll completely discover that there was someone hiding inside. It started to lower its head, trying to get in. Seeing that the situation became urgent, Hermione hurriedly said, "You left the invisibility skill to me. What are you going to do?" "Don't worry," Levin said calmly, "I have magic to protect myself, and the troll can't hurt me. You hide aside for now, and I will take the opportunity to run out when I fight the troll later." Levin asked her out because he thought she was in the way, but in Hermione's case, Levin had to sacrifice himself to attract the troll's attention, giving her a chance to escape. Even Levin's confident voice became tragic in her ears. "No ... I won't leave you alone." The little witch cried and took out her wand again. What are you doing?" "Don't waste my magic," Levin said helplessly. "Your magic can't hurt it." With that said, Levin took the initiative to give a demonstration. Expelliarmus. Red light emerged from the tip of the wand and accurately hit the troll's shoulder. But nothing happened. The troll blinked stupidly and turned its ugly nose toward Levin. Ordinary wizard spells cannot harm this giant monster at all. Originally, Levin wanted to demonstrate this to Hermione, but who would have expected that the little witch had wrong ideas from the beginning, and now she even gets the wrong idea. Even if you can't hurt the troll, you still have to stay and attract attention. Are you such a great person? Don't worry, I won't let you down. I know. I will definitely find the professors as soon as possible to support you. You must hold on. After Hermione finished speaking, she hid in a side compartment shivering. At this moment, the troll finally realized that the little guy in front of him had just attacked him. So it raised a stick in its hand, roared, and approached Levin. Frost armor. Levin did not launch an attack immediately, but instead put up a layer of defense for himself. This is also the Arcane Mage's fighting routine: first protect yourself, then seek control, and finally kill the enemy. Suddenly, Levin was surrounded by invisible armor. Hermione felt chilly in the cubicle. He's using his own spells again, she thought. He always has a bunch of his own spells. Regarding this coolness, the troll felt it even more than the little witch. The closer it gets to the little thing in front of it, the slower it moves due to the cold air. This is the deceleration effect caused by frost armor, while improving defense. Of course, Levin would not waste this opportunity. He raised his wand again and pointed it at the troll in front of him. Beam after beam of blue rays shot from the tip of the wand towards the troll. It is a 0-level spell, Freezing Ray. Although the damage of this magic is not high, it is only a 0-level magic. It can be cast without much preparation, which is suitable for emergency use. The rays all hit the same spot, the shoulder of the troll's club-holding arm. Suddenly, a thin layer of frost appeared on the troll's right shoulder. It grew thicker and thicker under the constant attack, and finally froze into a single piece. The giant monster came to Levin recklessly, twisting its waist, shaking its shoulders, and swinging its arms. All the muscles in its body worked together with magic to exert all its strength. In one go, it was ready to crush this little thing into pulp with a stick. But the imagined scene did not happen. The stupid troll was stunned for several seconds, and then he realized that his set of moves actually only included the twisting of the waist. None of the subsequent actions was successful. Because my shoulders have been frozen, in the eyes of Levin and Hermione, this troll just ran up to them and bent down awkwardly towards them. The arm holding the stick was still raised high on his shoulder. The funny look almost made Hermione laugh out loud. However, the calm Levin did not do this. He seized the opportunity and prepared a second spell. Eye Sorrow. Ice Blade Technique. When casting Frost Bolt, Levin spent his energy reshaping the magic. The originally sharp ice arrows were turned into sharp ice blades and shot towards the troll's frozen shoulder. Although the troll has strong magic resistance, it has little resistance to cold damage. The rough and flexible outer skin also becomes very fragile under the action of Freezing Ray. I saw the ice blade hit, and the giant monster's arm was broken at the shoulder level, as if it had been chopped by a sharp knife. But under the influence of ice, it couldn't even feel pain. "Okay, Levin, you're awesome," Hermione praised. Levin is also satisfied with this. This is the outcome of the battle he imagined. Without its arms and weapons, the giant monster immediately lost most of its combat power. With just a few small spells, this big guy can be easily subdued, and today's spell experiment was declared a success. Just when Hermione was excited and Levin was about to pursue the victory, the troll picked up his arm and attached the broken part to the wound on his shoulder. Next, something unbelievable happened to the two of them. As soon as the flesh and blood of the monster's wound came into contact, it immediately began to grow crazily, and the sprouts of flesh sprouting one after another were horrifying to see. In less than 2 seconds, the giant monster's broken arm was reattached intact. Chapter 33 Rebirth of Fierce Fire. No, this broken arm cannot be said to be intact. It can even be said that the recovery was very rough. Levin clearly found that the connected arm was a little crooked. The texture of the interface skin did not exactly match up, and it was also a little longer, resulting in two arms that were longer and shorter, looking extremely uncoordinated. But this is the scariest part. Even with this rough technique, the giant monster still successfully reattached the severed arm, and the reattached arm can still be used flexibly. This shows that the giant monster relies entirely on its incredible recovery ability. But how is this possible? I have never heard that the trolls in the world of Harry Potter have such resilience. This is how the same thing. Levin's brain is working rapidly. A vast database of magic books is no help. Instead, it was the memory of his previous life that gave him clues. Could this troll have merged the characteristics of trolls from other worlds? Thinking of this, Levin was suddenly enlightened. Yes, surprisingly, Ciri from the wizarding world can appear in this world. Water ghosts can appear in this world. So why can't the trolls of this world merge with the trolls of other world? After all, they are all the same species. Unlike the trolls in the Harry Potter world, whether in World of Warcraft, D&D or the Wizarding world, trolls are a race known for their regenerative abilities. The troll's wounds heal very quickly. If the monster loses its limbs or even its head, the dismembered parts will still maintain life and activity. Some trolls will even reattach severed limbs directly to their original places. What's even more exaggerated is that if the troll doesn't reattach the severed limbs to their original places, the severed limbs will even automatically fight like living creatures. You will see a crawling hand, a jumping leg, or a biting head on the battlefield, until the troll reattach the broken limb, or grow a new limb. Obviously, the giant monster in front of me is able to reattach its limbs because it has absorbed the abilities of its kind from other world. If the original giant monster's combat power is equivalent to level 5-6, so now this guy who has both the magic resistance of the troll and the regeneration ability of the troll is completely equivalent to a level 7-8 wizard. But the troll's super recovery ability is not unsolvable. Levin's otherworldly knowledge told him that only acid and fire could prevent the regeneration of the troll's body. Isn't it time to catch up? Levin sneered proudly. There, fireball technique, I just developed. As he spoke, he waved his wand and read out the magic he just learned today. Monster summoning technique. In an instant, a huge bison appeared and stood in front of the giant monster. The bison is just an ordinary beast. Of course, it can't take a few blows from the troll. But until the bison falls, the troll cannot threaten its summoner. Seeing the troll being choked by the bison and screaming, Hermione's eyes lit up. So the buffalo curse can still be used like this? It's really powerful. Levin's spell is not over yet. While the troll was helpless after being gored by the bison, Levin began to recite the second spell. Hot Ray. An orange-red beam so intense that it turned white was emitted from the tip of the wand, shining directly on the giant monster. The irradiated area instantly became blackened and carbonized, and bursts of white smoke emitted. Ho ho! The giant monster itself was restrained by the fire element, and the scorching heat brought intense pain, making it roar in pain. The high-temperature rays streaked across the giant monster's chest, leaving a deep scar. The troll was in so much pain that even the bison couldn't care about it and could only cover its wounds and roll on the ground. But that wasn't the painful end of it. Hot Ray. Another blazing light shot out. This time Levin aimed at the troll's newly attached arm. Under his careful control, the ray shot directly on the joint of the troll's shoulder and slowly passed through it. The newly reattached limb joint was already fragile, but there, Heat Ray, now exerted the effect of Superman's Heat Ray, burning the newly attached arm off again. The poor giant turned into the Condor hero again. After losing his right arm again, the troll wailed and picked up his right arm with his only remaining left hand and connected it to the wound, trying to stage the scene of reconnecting the severed limb again. But this time, its regenerative power has been suppressed by the fire element, and no matter how it is connected, it cannot produce an effect. The stupid troll didn't know what was going on, so he could only try again and again, and became incompetently furious over and over again. And Levin finally prepared the last spell, Fireball technique. Normally, he would not use such a mass destruction spell in such a small room. But the troll is a guy with strong vitality after all. In Levin's spell list, this is the only spell that can make the final decision. After casting, Levin stood in front of Hermione and used Frost Armor to protect himself and the little witch. Boom! The moment the blazing fire element touched the giant monster, a violent explosion occurred. The entire women's restroom was suddenly ablaze. Even though the center of the explosion was a full 7 or 8 meters away from Levin, the aftermath of the flames still destroyed most of the frost armor. When Levin turned around to look, the giant monster was already scorched black and fell to the ground, no longer breathing. If Levin hadn't cancelled the summoning of monster summoning before casting the fireball, even the bison is going to be roasted whole. Phew, finally done. Looking at the small mountain of charred corpses in front of him, Levin couldn't help but wipe away the non-existent sweat. Frost armor not only protects him, but also provides an air conditioning effect. In this case, it is quite difficult to sweat. Hermione also exited the invisibility state, standing next to Levin and looking at the dead monster in fear. If Levin hadn't arrived in time, she couldn't imagine what would have happened. About a few seconds later, there were footsteps outside the toilet door, and a familiar shout came from outside the door. "Hermione, are you there?" It was Harry and Ronald, and they were also looking for Hermione. "I'm here," Hermione responded. Harry and Ronald actually remembered to come to her, which moved Hermione a little. These two friends were indeed loyal. Of course, what moved her the most was Levin, who came to her for the first time. No one can bring a sense of security better than him. "Hermione, be careful, there's a troll nearby. What is this?" Harry and Ronald followed the sound and broke into the toilet. They were not frightened by the corpse of the troll immediately. Before Levin could explain anything, there were footsteps again. After a moment, Ravenclaw's headmaster Flitwick and McGonagall rushed over at the head, followed closely by Snape, and Quirrell, who had already woken up, was at the end. Quirrell only glanced at the charred corpse of the giant monster, then let out a weak sob, clutched his chest tightly, and slumped to the ground with another exaggerated wail. Snape bent down to look at the troll, while Flitwick and McGonagall looked at the four young wizards. "Levin Green, what the hell are you students playing?" McGonagall said, with cold anger in his voice. "You're lucky you weren't killed by it. Why didn't you heed the warning and stay in the dormitory?" "I didn't hear any warning at all." Professor McGonagall's questioning made Harry and Ronald panic, but it didn't make Levin nervous at all. Before looking for the troll, he had already laid the groundwork. "I just ate too fast at the dinner, and my stomach felt a little uncomfortable. I went to the toilet, but I didn't hear any warning." After that, he went a step further and asked the other party in turn, "I never expected that I would encounter a troll in Hogwarts, which is known as the safest place in the world. I also want to ask, what kind of tricks is the school doing?" Snape glanced at Levin suspiciously, as if judging the truth of his words. Flitwick asked with concern, "Levin, you are not injured, are you?" After getting a negative answer, he turned to Professor McGonagall and explained to Levin, "You did misunderstand, Minerva. Miss Cravat just mentioned Levin to me, and he did go to the toilet in the middle of the banquet. It's normal not to hear the warning." "Oh, if that's the case, I'm sorry, kid. This is indeed Hogwarts' mistake." Professor McGonagall became embarrassed. In fact, her anger was entirely out of concern for her students, so she turned to the three little lions and waited for their explanation. "Miss Granger has been staying here because she is sad," Levin explained for Hermione. "She has not attended the Halloween dinner from the beginning." As for Harry and Ronald, he glanced at the two of them, and they both defended themselves. "We are here to find Hermione. We want to remind her about the troll. In fact, we only arrived a little earlier than you, Professor." After hearing everyone's reasons, Professor McGonagall's eyes softened. "I finally understand the matter." She coughed a few times, and first looked at Levin apologetically. "Mr. Green, you solved the troll alone. For this, I will give Ravenclaw 20 points. I have to say, there are not many for a first-year student to be able to compete with an adult troll. You have indeed proven your talent." Flitwick looked at the burnt corpse and praised, "Although I don't know how you used the fire spell to kill a troll, I have to say, it was a great job." As for you, Professor McGonagall looked at the remaining three young wizards. "Miss Granger, since you have extenuating circumstances, I will not deduct points for Gryffindor for this. But Mr. Potter and Mr. Weasley, each of you will deduct points for Gryffindor." "It's been 5 minutes. Next time something like this happens, you should take the initiative to find the professor instead of making fun of your own life." If Mr. Green hadn't been here this time, Professor McGonagall did not continue. She did not want Levin to think that this was an encouragement to him. "Now then, you'd better go back to the common room. The students are all having Halloween dinner in their own houses." On the way back to the lounge, Levin kept dealing with Harry's entanglement with Ronald. They couldn't imagine that a little wizard of their own age could actually defeat a giant monster head-on. As for Hermione, the girl was smiling the whole time, not at all like she was trembling with fear before. The three people in front of her made her feel friendship for the first time at Hogwarts. Especially Levin, It wasn't until today that Hermione felt like she had made a friend. Chapter 34 Harry's Threat Theory. Levin and others have returned to the lounge to enjoy the rest of the festival. The professors are still discussing the accident. This giant monster accidentally escaped from Professor Quirrell's laboratory. Although a first-year student had dealt with it, Dumbledore certainly could not allow Quirrell to leave something like a troll in Hogwarts, even if it was used as a teaching aid. In the principal's office, a gloomy-looking Snape was talking to Dumbledore. "I don't understand why you allowed him to become the defense against the dark arts professor," Snape said resentfully. The position he had dreamed of for many years was now occupied by such a guy. You can imagine his frustration. If compared with the scene when he watched Lily marry James Potter, it's about 1% of that feeling. Dumbledore was noncommittal. "I have a last resort," Severus. Facing this calm old face, Snape was filled with anger, but also helpless. In fact, he was dissatisfied with Dumbledore. When he betrayed Voldemort and took refuge with a white wizard, the root of everything was Lily. As a result, Lily was actually killed under Dumbledore's protection. Even if this was an accident that Dumbledore couldn't have foreseen, Snape still had a grudge against the white wizard. If it weren't for the sake of Lily's child, Harry Potter, he really wouldn't want to obey this old bee's orders. Seeing that Dumbledore was unwilling to express his opinion, Snape went further. "I just checked the corridor on the 4th floor. The door was opened and the three-headed dog attacked the intruder. In addition, I insisted on the corpse of the troll. The burn marks on the dead troll were not simple, and some of the wounds were not like those that could be caused by the ordinary fire-making curse. You have to pay attention to the new life of the Ravenclaw." Dumbledore still just nodded. "I understand, Severus. You have to give the young wizard a little more trust." Seeing that his words fell on deaf ears, Snape turned away and left. As he was about to leave the headmaster's office, Dumbledore said softly, "Please pay more attention to Professor Quirrell for me. You already doubted him and yet you allowed him to be a professor in the castle." Snape became even more angry. "Severus, I have a last resort," Dumbledore said softly. "FK your damn reasons." Snape was furious and slammed the door. In the following period, Levin almost became a star at Hogwarts. Almost everyone who meets him asks about how he defeated the troll. Even his roommate Steve came to him and asked, "Hey, Levin, I heard that you had a battle with a troll that night." Because of this, the toilet was blown to pieces, and there were broken limbs and limbs all over the floor. "Is this true?" Levin was stunned after hearing this. "Good guy, are you sure you're not talking about Stalingrad, but the Hogwarts basement?" Only when he asked Hermione did he find out that after returning to the common room that day, Ronald couldn't help but be excited and spent most of the night talking with the little lions in the common room. "That's so exciting." In order to attract more attention, Ronald made a little exaggeration of the facts. Who would have thought that if it was passed down to 10, it would become like this? Ronald is indeed a big talker who loves to be in the limelight. Until a week later, Levin could still see him bragging about it to others at breakfast in the auditorium. After entering November, the weather becomes very cold. The mountains surrounding the school were grey and covered with ice and snow, and the lake surface was as cold and hard as tempered steel. Every morning, with frost on the ground, the young wizards noticed Rubeus Hagrid, Hogwarts keykeeper and gamekeeper, decked out in thick furs, defrosting broomsticks on the Quidditch pitch. Quidditch season is about to begin. During these days, Ravenclaw's captain, Roger Davis, was busy training with Levin and the others whenever he had time. Quidditch training increased from 3 times a week to 5 times a week. But the professors at Hogwarts are not letting up on their studies just because of the exciting Quidditch season. Therefore, Levin is busier than other students. Naturally, Quidditch training cannot be left behind. In addition to completing the coursework assigned by the professor, he also has to go to the library to read and scan books, and also looks for opportunities to go to the room of requirement to find valuable items to repair. He came to Hogwarts. The first holiday after that is coming. Harry Potter serves as the main seeker of the Gryffindor Quidditch team, and he will play today. On Saturday morning, Roger Davis ran breathlessly to the Ravenclaw common room to break the news. Although Ravenclaw will face Hufflepuff in tomorrow's game, Ravenclaw's biggest opponents in the Quidditch Cup have always been Slytherin and Gryffindor. Therefore, Roger has been concerned about the situation of these two teams. He's only in the 1st grade, and he actually became the main force. "Didn't you say he was a substitute before?" "What's the point? Don't we also have a first-year main player? Is it because he is famous?" "Of course not." Levin actively popularizes science. "Do you know the trophy display room on the 4th floor? The crystal glass cabinets inside display trophies, shields, medals and statues. Every Quidditch Cup is placed there. I remember the last time I passed by there, a name was found on the trophy. James Potter." "James Potter?" Cirila was a little surprised. "Another Potter, then his relationship with Harry is..." "They have a father-son relationship," Levin confirmed. "That is to say, Harry's father, as a seeker, once helped Gryffindor win the Quidditch Cup." Levin's words caused an uproar. It is not surprising that Quidditch talent can be inherited. There are many Quidditch families in the wizarding world. Seeing that the scene was a bit chaotic, Cirila coughed dryly and said loudly, "It's just a Potter. Are you afraid?" "No matter who the opponent is, victory belongs to Ravenclaw." At this time, her eyes were firm, showing her desire for victory. "That's right, against Hufflepuff tomorrow. The victory will only be ours. Levin also echoed. Thinking of the ace pairing of Levin and Cirila, the eaglets finally let go of their fear of Harry. But after watching the afternoon game, the Harry threat theory started making noise again. As the first game of the season, Slytherin played very dirty. It almost looked like they were playing rugby rather than Quidditch. Throughout the game, they kept committing flagrant fouls, which made Gryffindor extremely uncomfortable, and the score kept falling behind. In the end, it was Harry Potter who saved the world. He risked losing control of his broom to catch the golden snitch first, ending the game in one fell swoop. After the game, there was a little fuss where Snape was suspected of framing Potter. But no matter what, everyone has seen what Harry Potter is capable of. Now Ravenclaw can only hope that their new player has Harry's skills. The next morning it was clear and cold. The restaurant is filled with the enticing smell of grilled sausages, and everyone is looking forward to a wonderful Quidditch game. Chapter 35 Ravenclaw vs Hufflepuff. The time soon reached 11 o'clock. There were huge crowds of people around the Quidditch pitch. It seemed like all the teachers and students in the school came to the stands around the Quidditch pitch. Many students even brought telescopes. The stands were literally lifted into the air to get a clear view of the action. But it was still difficult to see clearly at times. Roger and other players gathered around Levin and Shirley and walked to the locker room. "Hey guys, our Ravenclaw glory is coming. We are the best team Ravenclaw has ever seen." Roger enthusiastically launched into his pre-match speech. "The year before last, after our best chaser, Miss Liane, joined Ravenclaw, our performance surpassed that of Gryffindor, and was only second to Slytherin. And this year, we have welcomed a young talented chaser, Levin Green. Neither Slytherin nor Hufflepuff is our opponent. Wish us luck." "Tell me, what are we, champion?" The Ravenclaw Quidditch players walked out of the locker room with high spirits, and then walked to the cheering stadium. The one who takes the first place is not Roger, but Cirila, because she is the biggest star. Levin walked behind, without any fear, and even a little enthusiastic. Even he would be affected by such a fanatical atmosphere. The scene was very much like a popular football or basketball game in previous lives. Levin saw Ravenclaw's auditorium at a glance. There was a huge banner above the seats that read "Ravenclaw must win." Surrounding the big banner were small banners with the names of the 7 team members written on them. The banners were enchanted with a levitating spell, allowing them to float above the Ravenclaw stand without the need for human hands to hold them. The blue banner floats with the wind, and the eagle emblem in the banner that keeps flapping its wings is like a real eagle soaring in the 9 heavens. The referee of the game is Mrs. Hooch, who stands in the middle of the court with her broomstick in her hand. "Attention everyone, I want everyone to compete fairly and honestly," she said when the players from both teams came to her side. "Everyone, please ride on your broomsticks." Levin stepped onto Nimbus 2000. This was a gift from Professor Flitwick. The head of Ravenclaw did not want his students to lose to the Gryffindor Seekers. Beep. Mrs. Hooch blew her silver whistle as hard as she could. 15 flying broomsticks rose from the ground and rose high into the sky. "The game begins." "Good morning everyone, I'm the commentator for this game, Lee Jordan." Lee Jordan's enthusiastic voice rang out, igniting the atmosphere of the entire venue. He is a black boy from Gryffindor, with traditional black dreadlocks. He seems to speak with rhythm and has an amazing talent in explanation. "This much is Ravenclaw versus Hufflepuff." The quaffle was immediately grabbed by Ravenclaw's chaser Cirila. "That girl is an excellent chaser." After she joined Ravenclaw, the Quidditch team has undergone a qualitative change. "I dare say, she is the real captain of Ravenclaw, not Roger, and she is very charming." "Jordan." "I'm sorry, Professor." "She was really running all the way up there, and she made a beautiful pass, and Levin Green caught the ball without even looking back." "What a terrible understanding." Levin Green is a new player discovered by Cirila this year. If Gryffindor's Harry Potter is the youngest seeker in a century, then Green is the youngest chaser in a century. Lee Jordan introduced Levin without forgetting to mention Gryffindor. "Harry Potter, beautiful. He just dodged and escaped Zacharias' deliberate steal." He lived up to Cyrilla's expectations. Although he is young, he is agile enough. He was soaring all the way in the middle, and Zacharias couldn't catch up with him. This speed was amazingly fast. It turned out that he was riding the same Nimbus 2000 as Harry. It seems that Ravenclaw didn't want Gryffindor to dominate the front. Lee Jordan mentions Harry again. Hufflepuff's other chaser, Cadvaridity, suddenly stepped in and blocked Levin in front of him. Faced with this inevitable steal, Levin casually threw the quaffle to the upper left and at the same time turned the broom to the lower right. This action almost stunned Cadwallader. He didn't know for a moment whether he was blocking the ball or someone, but Levin smoothly moved him behind him, and the quaffle fell into the hands of Cirila on the upper right. A beautiful one too. Lee Jordan was so excited that he almost jumped up. Levin cleverly played a trick on Cadwallader. Cirila was already waiting above. "I have never seen such a tacit understanding. They didn't even look at each other the whole time." Cirila kept going, heading straight into the scoring area without slowing down at all. "Is it about to appear?" Cirilla's classic solo quick breakthrough. She relied on this to help Ravenclaw become a strong contender for the Quidditch Cup. "Oh." Goalkeeper Stebbins came forward. He wants to challenge Cirilla's breakthrough head-on. Can he succeed? With Lee Jordan's passionate commentary, All attention was focused on Hufflepuff's goal. Immediately afterwards, they heard Lee Jordan scream, "Oh! No, she didn't shoot the ball herself." Cirila didn't break through alone. She actually passed the ball the moment she entered the scoring area. Everyone forgot that she had teammates. It was Levin. Levin Green received the ball. He has been waiting there for a long time. Hufflepuff's defense has been attracted by Cirila, and now he is facing an empty goal. Levin drove the Nimbus 2000 and threw the quaffle towards the ring in front of him. The ball went in. Exquisite coordination. The talented chaser Cirila used herself to attract all the attention and handed the ball to her teammates before breaking through. The youngest chaser in a century, Levin Green. He lived up to the expectations of his seniors and scored the first goal of the game. And this was less than a minute before the game started. Along with Jordan's excited explanation, huge cheers rang out from the Ravenclaw stands. After losing a goal at the beginning, the morale of the Hufflepuffs was greatly reduced, but they were not discouraged. They quickly passed the ball to the chaser Zachary's, and quickly launched an attack before Levin returned to the half-court gap. The three chasers formed a triangle, protected the ball aggressively, and launched a direct attack on Ravenclaw's position. Captain Roger quickly organized an interception. However, the Eagles are afraid of physical confrontation, so Ravenclaw's playing style is generally soft. Although he can do a lot of technical tricks, he is not good at strong breakthroughs and defense. This is why the addition of Cirila can bring about a qualitative change in the Ravenclaw Quidditch team. The future Witcher is like a freak in Ravenclaw. Not only is he skilled in playing skills, but he is also not afraid of close combat and physical confrontation. Even Slytherin's Marcus Flint had to give up in this regard. The addition of Cirila fills Ravenclaw's gap very well, making many tactics that were just a chore become full of threats. Now that Levin has arrived, there are two such freaks. It's Cirila again, facing Hufflepuff's group breakthrough. It's Cirila who steps forward again. She is not only a powerful breakthrough player, but also an iron wall for Ravenclaw. But can she stop the triangle attack of three people by herself? With the explanation, all the Ravenclaws felt their hearts tightening. Wait, it's Levin. Levin returned with incredible speed. A beautiful Parkins clamp tactic. He stole the quaffle from Chaser Summers. What a terrifying tacit understanding. Jordan sighed loudly. I have to repeat it again. The tacit understanding between Cirila and Levin is the most terrifying I have ever seen among ball chasers. They don't even need words, just a glance. They both focus on Sarah holding the ball. Muse. Poor Summers. He has no chance between these two vicious chasers. Wait. What is he going to do? Merlin's beard. Levin didn't wait for his teammates and immediately started a fast break. Hufflepuff can't make it back. Where's the beater? Beater, please save him. Hufflepuff's hitters are certainly working hard. Just as Levin was about to enter the scoring area, a black bludger quickly hit his back. But Levin didn't even turn his head, as if he had eyes behind his back. Psychic detection is much easier to use than eyes. He turned slightly sideways, dodged lightly, and listened to the huge iron ball whistling past his ears. Unfortunately, the batsman couldn't save Hufflepuff. Levin allowed himself a one-on-one opportunity with the goalie. What would he do? He would just go for it. Just like Cirila always did, he would be second. Cirila? Yes. The ball went in. He proved that he is no less than Cirila, and Hufflepuff's goalkeeper couldn't stop his attack. In Ravenclaw's seat, the cheers rang louder again, less than a minute since the last time. Chapter 36. The Epiphany at the critical moment is also exclusive to the Protagonist. The next game almost turned into a dance party between Levin and Cirila. They took turns to attack, either using their incomparable personal skills and impact to break through directly, or using superhuman tacit understanding and exquisite skills to cooperate with each other to play with Hufflepuff's chasers. If it were in the past, Hufflepuff could have used a multi-person defense to block Cirila, while the remaining people would drag Ravenclaw, who was not good at melee combat, into a close fight to gain a fighting chance. This is a common tactic used by other teams to deal with Ravenclaw after Cirila joined Ravenclaw. But now, even this trick is no longer easy to use, because Levin is no less a threat than Cirila. Whenever their zone defense pinned one of them, the other one could take advantage of Hufflepuff's defense to break through and score like crazy. But if they don't play zone defense and man-marking, then these two guys can start at the same time and rely on their superhuman tacit understanding to exert a stronger effect. In this way, Hufflepuff was kept flying around by Ravenclaw, but he never knew how to resist Ravenclaw's attack. As Jordan concluded, the addition of Levin gives Ravenclaw two Cirilas. No, in Hufflepuff's eyes, Levin is the plus Ultra Max version of Cirila. Not only does he possess Cirila's general speed, technique, and impact, but he also possesses super intuition and perception that Cirila does not have. Bludgers can't do any damage to him at all. No matter which direction the batter attacks from, whether it is a frontal attack or a sneak attack, none of them could cause him any harm. He never had to pay special attention or be wary of his surroundings to dodge the bludgers with the smallest of movements. When have the little badgers ever encountered such an opponent? He is not as fast as him, his skills are not as good as his, he can't hit or hit. He is as helpless as a hedgehog. Hufflepuff's goalkeeper may be able to block one shot, two shots, but Ravenclaw always shoots. Jordan sighed. Ravenclaw has two powerful breakthrough players, and Hufflepuff has nothing to do about it. In only 10 minutes of the game, Ravenclaw scored 90 points, scoring almost a goal every minute. Now Hufflepuff may have to rely on their seeker, Cedric Diggory. As long as he can catch the snitch within 10 minutes, victory will belong to Hufflepuff. Why within 10 minutes? Because in 10 minutes at most, the score difference between the two teams would be over 150 points. At that time, even if the golden snitch flew to Cedric's hands, he would not be able to save Hufflepuff. Haven't they discovered the golden snitch yet? Jordan turned back and continued to observe the progress of the game, his eyes sweeping around the field, wishing he could become a seeker himself. But even the seeker on the field found nothing, let alone him. When the score between the two sides reached 120 hours 20 minutes, the situation changed. Levin, who was originally cooperating with Cirila in the attack, suddenly stopped flying, turned around and flew towards the seeker Janku, leaving Cirila alone to face the pursuit and interception of the little badgers. But none of the Ravenclaw players seemed surprised. Under the confused gazes of the audience, the two little Chinese wizards just whispered in the air. Then Levin pointed to the Hufflepuff stand. Janku immediately activated his broomstick and swooped over first, with Levin following closely behind. Cedric, who was not far away, only stayed for a moment before following him as if he suddenly understood. Although he could not immediately determine the location of the golden snitch, after flying closer, the truth became clear. He followed the direction of his opponent and discovered the small golden ball, which was the size of a walnut and was constantly flapping its wings like a wasp. Jordan's commentary revealed the truth to the audience. It's incredible. In this game, the first person to discover the golden snitch was not the seekers of both sides, but the chaser of Ravenclaw, who contributed an amazing performance. It's really amazing. Levin Green was not only scoring consecutive goals, he was also looking for the golden snitch part-time, and was the first to find it. He stared closely at the chase in front of him and explained excitedly. Now the situation is obvious. Ravenclaw has changed its tactics. The youngest chaser directly transformed into the second seeker, helping the real seeker Janku to catch the golden snitch, while Ravenclaw's chasers and beaters then they turn to the defensive and adopt delaying tactics. Anyway, they have the score advantage and are not afraid of losing the ball. As long as Ravenclaw catches the golden snitch first, they will win. As Hufflepuff's seeker, Cedric Diggory had been watching the boy in front of him crush his teammates. The opponent was so strong that he had to take on the important task of turning the team from defeat into victory. But now, he finally experienced firsthand how difficult this boy was. Seeing that Ravenclaw discovered the golden snitch before him, Diggory ignored the danger and forced himself to increase his speed to the maximum, trying to surpass Janku. But Levin is like an escort fighter plane next to a bomber. Once Diggory tries to get closer, he will take the initiative to meet him, as if he will stop him even if they die together. Diggory tried many overtaking methods, including emergency acceleration, emergency changes of direction, forced collision. But no matter how he tried, the young chaser would accurately block his path, preventing him from making any progress. He originally thought that he could forcefully break through with his elder physical advantage. But he was wrong. The opponent was much stronger than he looked. When the two collided, Diggory felt that he had bumped into not a wizard but a troll. Finally, Diggory couldn't stand it anymore. Seeing that Janku was just a few centimeters away from catching the golden snitch, he immediately ignored it and forced to break through. Of course, Levin didn't tolerate him, and blocked him directly. The two were wrestling. Janku suddenly slowed down, and the three of them formed a ball and rolled into Hufflepuff's banner. Seeing that the situation was not good, Diggory reluctantly turned his broom and escaped smoothly. With Levin's skills, there was a chance to break free, but Janku was too weak to hold the broom with one hand, and lost his hand when the banner rolled up. Seeing this, Levin had no choice but to rush forward and at the same time urgently cast Frost Armor, trying to use it as a buffer. You are in crisis and need to quickly cast magic to deal with the current trouble. At this critical moment, you suddenly realized the meta-magic feat. Spell instant. Spell prompt. You can consume extra mana to cast spells instantly. The higher the spell level, the greater the extra mana consumed. Generally, spells above level 5 cannot be cast instantly. You are in deep crisis, and you instinctively burst out with spiritual power to try to prevent yourself from falling. You suddenly realize the psychic power. Psychic explosion. Instant cast middle. Frost armor. Psychic explosion. In an instant, invisible ice armors gathered around Levin, protecting him and Janku in his arms, and the invisible power of thought exploded, greatly slowing down their fall. In the eyes of the audience, the two were involved in the banner and fell directly from a height of more than 10 meters. Everyone in the stands exclaimed. Professor Flitwick quickly drew out his wand and quickly cast a shock-absorbing spell, which together with Levin's telekinesis slowed down the falling momentum. The two fell to the grass along with the banner, where it rolled for weeks. Mrs. Hooch stopped the game. Ravenclaw's team members flew down to help the two of them escape from the tightly entangled banner. Even Diggory came to check on himself. When they broke free from the shackles of the banner and stood up surrounded by the team members, the whole venue seemed to have been pressed on the pause button, and then immediately started again. Deafening cheers filled the stadium. Janku stood up from Levin's arms and raised a hand holding the golden snitch high. It was because of this little guy that she unexpectedly let go. But the risk was worth it. 270 hours 20 minutes. Ravenclaw won with a big score. You know, the Hogwarts Quidditch Cup is not about wins, but the total score of all games combined. Such a huge score gap gave Ravenclaw a huge lead over other teams in an instant. The scene has become a sea of joy. The Ravenclaw players were extremely happy. Roger kept cheering with Levin in his arms, not caring that he was only doing odd jobs throughout the game. Janka held up the golden snitch and kept holding Levin's wrist tightly with his other hand. Levin could only smile awkwardly as he was hugged and grabbed. Cirila was very happy to win this time, but she, who had always been carefree, always felt a little uncomfortable at this moment, especially the scene where Junior Janka grabbed Junior Levin's wrist, which made her roll her eyes. In short, amid laughter and tears, Ravenclaw's first round of Quidditch came to an end. Chapter 37. Tsundere has withdrawn from the environment. Time flies. More than a month has passed since the exciting first round of Quidditch. It was mid to late December, and Hogwarts had entered winter, with several feet of snow covering everything. Levin has already made plans to go to Diagon Alley during the Christmas vacation to sell the debris he repaired during this period, and at the same time find a way to buy the main ingredient for the permanent elixir. At least he has to find and obtain it. Because of this incident, he has recently become interested in the subject of potions. He has recently been trying to combine alchemistry and potions, and has gained a lot. Unlike him, as Christmas is approaching, most of the little wizards are not focusing on their studies and are eagerly looking forward to the long holiday. The lake was covered with solid ice, and although there were roaring fires in the common room and auditorium, the drafty corridors were bitingly cold, and the classroom windows rattled in the biting wind. The worst thing for students is that Professor Snape's classes are all held in underground classrooms. The cold air in the basement combined with the cold air in winter naturally makes it twice as cold. During class, as soon as they took a breath, a cloud of white mist formed in front of them, so they had to get as close to the hot crucible as possible. Because he studied potions, Levin was quite active in the potions class, but this did not win the old bat's good attitude. Even though he was the first to complete the potion required by his coursework, Snape was still very picky about him. Being the first to complete the potion does not mean that you have done a good job. Mr. Green, you took too long to brew the uplifting potion. What do I think? If you had finished it later, other people's wounds would have been healed. He took a sip of the potion with a sullen face and complained loudly. The potion tastes too strong, which means your Baexian liquid has too many impurities. Maybe you should crush it first when squeezing the Baexian juice, and then squeeze it through gauze. As for now, I can only suggest that you put some licorice in it. And taste, otherwise even the trolls won't be willing to drink your potion. Seeing Levin being trained so badly, Steve on the side felt sorry for him. Old Bat must be targeting you. He didn't even think about it. Who would brew a potion when he was injured? Please call him Professor Snape, Steve. Although he speaks harshly, he is really teaching us some skills that are not in the textbooks. Levin, on the other hand, was emotionally stable and told the truth in one sentence. But you were the first to finish it, and you did it so well. But you didn't give Ravenclaw any extra points. Steve was still a little uncomfortable. We come to Hogwarts just to learn more knowledge. Extra points are just a byproduct. As Levin spoke, he waved his wand to chop up a portion of white fresh leaves, and then squeeze them through gauze. The juice obtained is indeed much clearer. In addition to having less impurities and scum than before, it also doesn't have as much pungent smell. Levin immediately thought of the original book, the Half-Blood Prince's Potions textbook. The so-called Half-Blood Prince is actually Snape's pseudonym. He wrote a lot of notes and annotations in his potion textbook, which mentioned many potion-making techniques that were different from those in the textbook. Harry picked up the notes and followed them, and sure enough, his grades in potions class improved by leaps and bounds. This shows that Snape has been a master of potions since his student days, and many of his unique medicinal techniques are indeed very effective. And that's what he was trying to teach Levin just now, but the teaching process was mixed with cynicism. There is no way, this old bat is indeed an old arrogant person. Just like how he treated Harry, on the one hand, he stayed in Hogwarts as a professor specifically for Lily, and would rather be misunderstood by Harry again and again, just to protect him. On the other hand, he was always unhappy with Harry because of James Potter. Even if he knew it would deepen the misunderstanding, he would still mock Harry from time to time. This directly resulted in Snape being an absolute bad guy in Harry's eyes until he died. He had to wait until he died in front of Harry before he could realize his tenderness. It can only be said that Tsundere has already withdrawn from the environment. Because he knew Snape, Levin was able to take his bad breath lightly. Come to think of it, although Snape is stubborn and extreme, he still likes good students. I didn't see him being rude with his words, but he was still very honest with Levin and revealed some of his own secrets from time to time. In fact, even though Steve has been complaining about Levin, but in the eyes of the little snakes who really knew Snape, their dean treated the Ravenclaw incredibly well. The Slytherins have discovered that although the old bat often has a bad mouth about Levin, he has never really found fault with him, and has never deducted points from him. They could hear that Snape's criticism of Levin Green was fundamentally different from his criticism of Harry Potter, and both the preferential treatment and a smile are conserved. Snape's preferential treatment of Levin meant that poor students like Harry were treated even worse. That's a good saying. I could have endured the darkness if I had never seen the light. With Levin in front of him, those poor students are even more unbearable in the eyes of the old bat. Whether it is Harry, Ronald, Neville, or the demolition wizard Seamus Finnegan, they hate potions class even more than before. Especially I hated being left by Snape to refine potions over and over again until he successfully completed those complicated potions. Of course, except for potions, Levin still performed extremely well in other classes. The school year is not even halfway through, and everyone already thinks that the top grader in the final exam must be Levin. The second place is naturally the know-it-all Miss Hermione. Although she has become Levin's little apprentice, this does not prevent her from trying to catch up with the first place in class performance and academics. Since the troll incident, the relationship between the two has become closer. In addition to after-school magic tutoring, Miss Know-It-All occasionally asks Levin for advice on other things, including but not limited to the unfair treatment she encountered in Gryffindor because of her academic ability, and how stupid her two stupid men were. Even certain physiological issues have to be consulted by Levin. This makes Levin feel that he has a great responsibility. Not only did he have to be Hermione's best friend of the opposite sex, but he also had to be her best friend of the same sex. Levin completely believes that in a few years when a girl grows up and starts to have feelings for her, she will want to strangle her past self. It was before the Christmas party, and Levin was stopped by Hermione again on his way to the auditorium. Levin, here. Next to the pine trees in the corridor, Levin heard Hermione's voice. Levin turned around and saw Hermione, Ronald, Harry and Hagrid arguing under a holly tree. Chapter 38 Thrift Shop. Good afternoon, everyone, what are you doing here? Levin walked up and waved to them. Seeing another person coming, Hagrid's reaction was not happy, but annoyed. Hermione opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but Ronald held her back. We promised Hagrid, Hermione, Ronald said righteously, we shouldn't tell more people about this. But that's Levin Green. Hermione looked at him blankly. Isn't he our friend? Seeing the attitude of his two friends, Harry was very embarrassed. What Hermione wanted to say was a secret between him, Ronald, Hermione and Hagrid. Harry didn't know whether he should tell Levin what happened without the other person's consent. Seeing their mysterious looks, Levin immediately guessed what was going on. It was something about Nico Flamel and his little invention. But their attitude made Levin a little annoyed. Well, originally I was very willing to use my knowledge to help you. Since you don't want to say it, I can only wish you a happy holiday. With that said, he turned his head and walked directly towards Ravenclaw Tower. How could you treat him like this? Seeing her friend leave, Hermione also became angry. Levin is recognized as the best student in the first grade, and is also a frequent visitor to the library. It is said that he has read most of the books there, and maybe there is one about Nico Flamel. And he has helped you many times since the beginning of school. Why do you have to hide it from him? Ronald was immediately speechless after being slapped by Hermione. Harry also felt very annoyed and frustrated. He should have told Levin the truth earlier, but he was worried about Ronald's attitude and kept silent. Ronald always felt that the thing about that corridor and Nico Flamel should be their adventure. If Levin were told, he would probably be able to solve the problem by himself, and then they would have nothing to worry about. At this point, Hermione bit her lip. No, I have to find him. After saying that, without waiting for Harry and Ronald to react, she chased after Levin in the direction he left. But in the end, she was blocked by the eagle ring outside the lounge door. That's right, Hermione didn't answer the riddle of the eagle ring. Sure enough, the rumors about the eagle ring were not grounded. For thousands of years, no one other than Ravenclaw has entered the Ravenclaw lounge. Thinking about it, this is why Hermione has the qualifications of both Gryffindor and Ravenclaw, but the sorting hat sorted her into Gryffindor. Hermione is indeed a smart girl who meets the requirements of Ravenclaw, but most of her intelligence lies in memory, logical thinking and rationality. She still lacks one trait before she is a real Ravenclaw. That's the creativity that allows you to let yourself go. Throughout the entire Harry Potter plot, the person who best fits the characteristics of Ravenclaw is the crazy girl Luna Lovegood in everyone's mouth. Although this girl is always crazy in the eyes of outsiders, and her mind is filled with fantasies that only she can see, her madness is more likely to be wise and foolish. If Hermione's intelligence allows her to cope with all possible situations, then Luna's intelligence allows her to have a flash of inspiration when facing unexpected situations. As the saying goes, genius is 99% hard work and 1% inspiration. But few people know the follow-up to that sentence. The 1% of inspiration is the most important. Hermione was a little frustrated at not being able to enter the Ravenclaw lounge, but she had another idea. Maybe I can go to the library tomorrow and wait. He will always be there. However, Levin did not go to the library or even go to the auditorium the next day. After packing up his gifts, he went to the room of requirement, and then directly boarded the train back to London, leaving Hermione completely disappointed. After getting off the bus at the station, Levin skillfully transferred to the leaky cauldron. At this moment, he desperately hoped that he could learn to apparat. Otherwise, as a wizard, he would actually have to squeeze into the bus with moles, which is quite abstract. Opening the door to the bar, it was still dark inside as usual. "Good morning, old Tom, I'm back again." Levin walked straight to the counter and greeted Tom Abbott, who was wiping his glass. "Levin, it's your boy who's back." Old Tom flashed a hint of surprise when he saw him. He knew that today was the holiday day at Hogwarts, but he didn't expect that he would come here. "What? Are you addicted to living in cubicles?" Tom joked. Levin shook his head, showed an arrogant smile, and spent 9 cents. "No, give me a room this time. I have money now, and I want to stay there forever." "I haven't seen him for a few months." "I'm really impressed." Tom looked Levin up and down and commented. In these months of correspondence with Hannah, he had learned about the boy's performance at Hogwarts. He became a recognized genius as soon as he entered school. With his intelligence, it is not surprising that he has changed like this in a few months. "Okay, this time it's old Tom who will serve you." Tom took out a key from the drawer, put it in Levin's hand, and returned the 9 galleons to 2, a house for a week. "This is old friendship discount." Levin took the key, went up to the 2nd floor, and found room 9 based on the numbers above. Opening the door, there was a comfortable-looking bed in the room, several pieces of bright oak furniture, and a crackling fire in the fireplace. Levin put it down and bowed, placed the cage containing Helma on the top of the closet, and then went downstairs carrying a box. Arriving in the backyard of the leaky cauldron, he took out his wand and tapped on the bricks on the wall, and Diagon Alley appeared. Because it was Christmas, Diagon Alley was still very lively, with Christmas decorations hanging everywhere, bells jingling, merchants launching Christmas special products, and the wizards wandering around were overwhelmed. This made Levin very confused. Obviously these wizards did not believe in any religion. Others opened their mouths to talk about Jesus but closed their mouths to God. They were full of Merlin's bitter tea seeds. Why would a group of people like this celebrate Christmas? Of course, Levin doesn't expect to get answers in Diagon Alley either. He picked up a box and walked straight to the junk shop. It was a shop filled with tattered wands, rickety copper scales and old potion-stained cloaks. It sold not only second-hand magic items, but also used books. Levin purchased a lot of equipment here at the time, but today, this is where he makes his fortune. "Strucky, come out to pick up customers," Levin shouted when he arrived at the door of the store. "I'm coming." Soon, a skinny old man walked out of the junk shop with a cigarette under his arm. Strachey, full name Abraham Strachey, Jewish. He looks very old, but his movements are quite agile. It is said that he himself said that he was a vampire hunter in his youth. With the continuous and strict implementation of the secrecy law, today's vampires are all hiding under the supervision of wizards, and this profession has disappeared over time. During the 2 months he worked in Diagon Alley, due to lack of funds, Levin got to know each other very well. This old man usually likes to stay alone in the store and smoke, and he is not afraid of the things outside being taken away. Now when he looked at Levin, he grinned an ugly smile. "Hey, it's you again, Brother Green. Are you here to buy second-hand goods?" "No, quite the opposite." Levin pushed the box in his hand. "I'm here to sell something this time." Chapter 39 Material Clues. Sell things? After listening to Levin's words, the old man's face immediately showed an expression of interest. "Aren't you a mole? Where did you sell these things?" "Don't tell me there are mole things in them. I won't accept them." "Don't worry about who I am." Levin patted his chest carelessly. "I can be considered an old customer. I know your rules. They are all products of the magical world. As for where it comes from ... we follow the rules, and you must follow the rules too." I know. Don't ask where it came from." Strachey waved the hand holding the cigarette and muttered in a low voice, "Forget it if you don't tell me. I can see it myself." Having said that, he stepped forward and opened the box. But he immediately stopped moving. "Oh, I didn't realize it. This box is also a good product." The old man looked at the box and carefully stroked the lines on it with his fingers. "This style, this processing technique, this old leather, these traces of time ... Wait a minute, you made these traces today?" "A handmade leather suitcase from the Victorian era. You actually let you bump it like this?" Halfway through touching it, Strachey became annoyed with Levin's carelessness with the antique, and glared at the boy angrily. But the boy was obviously not afraid of him, and just said in a casual tone, "Since you cherish the antique so much, then buy it quickly, lest it fall into the hands of an ignorant person like me." HMPH. "Of course I will buy it," the old man snorted, "but before that, I want to see what good stuff you have, and you actually want to put it in an antique box." As he spoke, the old man carefully opened the buckle of the box and opened the lid. There was a whole box of old books neatly stacked inside. Cow sheep leather covers, pages bound with glue and thread, paper full of gaps, and classic printed and handwritten letters. Strachey read them one by one and was surprised to find that most of these books were more than 100 years old. Toadstool stories. "Oops, I deformed my feet. Why didn't I die when the oracle wailed?" The Magic of Chadwick, Volume 17, Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration, Jiggly Boakley and Hawks Pokes, Hogwarts, A School History. They are all wizarding books, and more than half of them are Hogwarts textbooks from 100 years ago. For example, Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration and Hogwarts, a school history are revised versions 100 years ago, with students written on them. Notes. These books, including the Victorian chest, were carefully selected by Levin from the room of requirement using their appraisal technique. The box is naturally for the convenience of loading things. As for why I chose a box of books, that's because Levin believes that selling books is the safest and the most cost-effective way. Looking at the large garbage dump in the room of requirement, there are all kinds of waste products in it. Without making it known to everyone, what Levin has to do is to transport the highest value goods through the smallest space and weight. There is an explanation for this. First, of course, magic items are worth more than normal items. However, repair spell can usually only repair ordinary items. If you want to repair magic items, you must be proficient in magic patterns and alchemy. This is currently something Levin can't do. In this case, Levin can only settle for the next best thing and choose the more expensive ordinary items. In this way, things like furniture, bottles and cans are eliminated. They are large and difficult to sell. Apart from jewelry and luxury goods, the best-selling items are books. However, it is not easy for ordinary people to give luxury goods like jewelry to the room of requirement. Even if you insist on picking some out, it's difficult to sell them. It's easy to be regarded as stolen goods. But antique books are different. First of all, antique books are widely available, so they are not stolen by thieves and are easy to sell. Secondly, in the world of Harry Potter, books are not cheap and are much more cost-effective than furniture. Thirdly, Levin has a massive database and copywriting skills, so even if these books have missing pages, they can be easily repaired. The door of the junk shop. Strucky read these old books from beginning to end, and from end to end. He looked at it several times until Levin became impatient, then raised his head and looked at the boy with admiration. "Oh, I didn't see it. Your repair technique is really good." After a pause, he continued, "We are all acquaintances, so let me tell you straight away, your books are well restored, but most of them are old textbooks, so the market is a bit narrow. Therefore, a book can only give you a purchase price of 8 galleons, and the box will count you 50 galleons. What do you think? 8 galleons? After hearing the price, Levin thought secretly. The price is actually similar to that of new books. For example, a 5th grade potions textbook costs 9 galleons. If these books are sold as used books, then the price is very high. And if these books are regarded as antiques, the price is lower. But considering that these books are shipped in batches, it is difficult to find buyers, and the sources are somewhat ... It is not unacceptable to lower the price a little. Levin thought for a while and counter-offered, "I don't think so. There are 67 books in total. Each book is worth 10 galleons. If you add the box, you can give me 700 galleons. A copy actually sells for 10 galleons. Why don't you go and grab it?" Strucky suddenly became angry. "A copy only costs 8 galleons. You are trying to steal it." Levin said tit for tat, and he was not false at all. After the two of them blew their beards and stared at each other for a while, Levin finally said, "Hey, Mr. Abraham, you can think about it. If this deal is completed, I will come to you again when I have new business in the future." "And there's new business?" Strucky's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he nodded after silently calculating. "Okay, deal, you kid. You've got a big advantage this time." "Just say so." Levin took the dragonhide bag containing 700 galleons and turned to leave. Now that the deal has been concluded, he doesn't mind letting the other party gain some leverage. "See you next time, Straky, and Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas, Grim." After leaving the junk shop for 100 steps, Levin's face burst into a satisfied smile. "This time I am really rich." Whether in the mole world or the wizarding world, money couldn't be more important. He didn't want to experience the tight life during the summer vacation again. Even if he doesn't care about external objects, studying magic is the most expensive thing. Having some money on hand is good for both life and research. With the money, the first thing Levin did was to change his entire outfit. The wizard robes, crucibles, experimental equipment ... all were replaced with new ones. He even went so far as to buy Hemmer a brand new cage and a pack of delicious, for a Scottish round-faced chicken, rat jerky. Then came Christmas, and he was rich again. This means that Hemmer, who has been idle for half a semester, will have to work hard for a few days. He spent the next time wandering around Diagon Alley, trying to find out information that was always the key ingredient in the elixir. The blood of ram cattle, the claw powder of ocelot, the tail-tip hair of nine-tailed fox, the beak powder of griffin, the bear paw of bear and the head feathers of owl beast. In the end, several old acquaintances, Miss Hayden, the female clerk at the magical creatures shop, and the 2 owners of Slugjegg's pharmacy came to help him. As the largest magical animal shop in Diagon Alley, Miss Hayden's shop is inevitably associated with poachers. Miss Hayden revealed that there are indeed several groups of poachers in the east trying to find mysterious creatures like the nine-tailed fox, and they claim to have clear information. Hayden didn't think the other party could really catch the nine-tailed fox. This magical creature has the ability to use its tail to cast mysterious spells. No matter what kind of desperate situation, As long as one tail is sacrificed, the nine-tailed fox can escape. The sacrificed tail will take decades to grow. But as long as that group of poachers can push the nine-tailed fox to this point, it will be easy to get some tail hairs. So Levin left Miss Hayden 50 galleons and asked her to pay attention to the news in this regard. As for the shopkeepers of Slugjegg's pharmacy, they brought news of Reemok's blood. Although the annual output of this kind of blood is very small, they do have suitable channels. After all, they also have backgrounds. Magic Potions and Potions written by Arsene Geiger is the potions textbook at Hogwarts. Horace Slughorn was the potions professor at Hogwarts for 50 years. His successor was Snape. So Levin left 100 galleons as a deposit, and he would be able to get a copy of the blood of the Reem cow during the summer vacation. Levin was very happy to receive the news of 2 rare materials in one go. But the remaining 4 are relatively slim. Among them, the head feathers of the moonkin are not considered for the moment. This thing has never been a native creature in the Harry Potter world. Levin can't expect the moonkin to suddenly cross the world and come here like the water ghost. The ocelot is a famous magical creature in America. It can walk upright, run faster than an arrow, and its eyes are said to have hypnotic and legilimency powers. A school at Ilvermorny School of Witchcraft and Wizardry is named after it, and its hair is also the material for the core of American wands. The claws of ocelots are not a mainstream potion material. But since wizards in America can get hair, they may not be able to get claws. I will consider this when I have time to go to the United States. The bear is a magical creature from the East, also known as the bear. It is a terrifying creature that looks like a giant bear. This thing comes from the Far East, so Levin can't get his hands on it yet. The only one that seems slightly easier to deal with is the griffin. The griffin, also known as the griffin, is a magical animal native to Greece. This is an ancient magical creature. They have the 4 limbs, wings and head of a giant eagle, while the body, hind legs and tail are like a lion. They mainly feed on raw meat and have a ferocious temperament, but skilled wizards can also fight with them. It makes friends. Griffins once spread all over Europe and were widely found in the records of wizards at that time, but today few people have heard of them. Instead, their descendants from horses, hippogriffs, also called hippogriffs, were widely bred by wizards as their substitutes. But magic materials are another matter. The hippogriff can replace the griffin as a mount, but it cannot replace the griffin as the medicinal ingredient for elixirs. Compared with ocelots, bears and owl beasts, griffins are rare, but at least they are a native animal. So next, Levin decided to start looking for griffins first. Chapter 40. Knowing the legend. Levin spent the afternoon wandering around Diagon Alley, but did not get any more information about the griffin. After all, this animal has been missing for too long. The last time it had clear contact with humans was Newt Scamander in 1927. Since you can't find it in other people's mouths, you can only rely on yourself. That night, Levin returned to the bar room early, placed an incense burner on the floor, surrounded by 4 ivory ornaments, lit a fire and burned incense, and started the magic ritual. Speaking of which, Levin has to thank Muzz for their developed modern industry. Ritual materials such as incense and ivory products would cost at least 300 to 400 gold coins in a real magical world, but relying on Muzz's developed industrial system, the price of these materials has been reduced by at least 10 times. The materials that originally cost a lot of money to collect, Levin only needed to go to the mall and spend less than £100 to get it. Understanding Legends, a foreign prophecy school spell. Knowing legends allows you to obtain relevant information and deeds about an important person, place or thing. The more you know about the person, thing, or place, the more specific the information you can get, and vice versa. This is a spell that Levin understood before setting off, and it is also the basis for him to dare to look for precious magic materials without knowing anything. Without this kind of prophecy spell, he, a novice in the magic world, might not be able to find all these tricky materials even if he is looking for clues. In addition to knowledge of legends, Levin also made many other preparations for this independent trip. For example, in order to prepare for possible conflicts, he learned many combat spells, such as the first level, Petrification Curse, the second level, Stun Curse, the second level, Expelling Curse, and the 0th level magic commonly used for solving puzzles and exploring, Apparition Curse, Unlocking Curse, Excavation Curse, etc. On this basis, Levin developed a series of spells such as the first level, Grease Spell, the second level, Mirror Imagery, the third level, Suggestion, and the first level, Mage Armor. He also took advantage of the potions class to buy a few bottles of invigorating potions that restored health. Anyway, I'm fully prepared. The wizard level has also been upgraded to LV5, and his magic power and magic resistance have been slightly improved. Even though his magic power is not as good as that of an adult wizard, with a series of unique spells and the metamagic skill of Spell Instant Cast, he is still capable of fighting as long as he does not encounter Elitares or Death Eaters. Know the legend. Look for the griffin's beak. When the smoke of spices completely enveloped the front, Levin started the magic ritual out of caution. He didn't even ask for a griffin, but a griffin beak. After all, A single beak is much easier to find than a live griffin. Maybe some old wizard has an ancestral griffin skull hidden in his home. Anyway, to brew a permanent potion, what is needed is the magic ingredient in the material and the symbolic meaning of the material itself. Here's the difference between magic and science. Magic is not just the evolution of purely objective factors such as the use of magic power and the deduction of rules. There are still many idealistic and subjective factors in magic, such as will, spirit and emotion. Another example is the various symbols of acquired genius. From a sociological perspective, the essence of symbols is similar to memes, which are products of collective imagination in human social activities. For example, the crow symbolizes the sun, so crow feathers can be used in potions with solar elements. Another example is that the grasshopper represents the jumping ability, so the grasshopper's hind legs can be used as casting materials for the jumping spell. This is why strange ingredients such as liar's tongue and witch's saliva appear in many ancient potion recipes. Muzz would think that these gods and ghosts are just human imagination. But in the magical world, adhering to the principle that if you believe it, there will be something, and if you don't believe it, there will be nothing. The collective imagination of mankind is really effective. Don't you think that in a certain other world, fame, legends and collective imagination can even tamper with real history, giving historical figures powers they never had before during their lifetimes, and even allowing characters in fantasy to step into reality? Back to Levin's mission. Eternal Eagle's Majesty Elixir. The reason why Griffin Beak powder is needed is that the creature Griffin is synonymous with majesty, pride, and charm. Otherwise, it would not be so annoying. The royal family and nobility are painted on the family coat of arms. The core medicinal materials of several other elixirs are similar to this. This is why Levin would rather have a fossilized griffin than use a hippogriff as a replacement. As the magical ritual progressed, Levin soon became immersed in the incense, and a blurry picture flashed in his mind. In the picture is an artificially dug cave. In front of the cave is an array of huge rocks. The array is arranged strangely, and strange plants grow among them, forming wonderful patterns. In the array of stones, there was a circular cavity on a huge stone, and it looked like something had been embedded there. Beside the boulder, surrounded by several four-legged animals, they are somewhat similar to the Q version of alpacas, with different fur colors, but all have big eyes. At this time, they are collectively looking at the stone formation in front of them, looking a little silly. The scene ends here. Levin suddenly woke up from his meditation. Looking at the time, half an hour has passed. The incense has long since dispersed. In other words, this is all the result given by mastering the legend. Is this the whereabouts of the Griffin's Beak that legend master told me? Levin fell into thought. The artificial caves, stone formations, strange patterns, circular inlays, and the four-legged animals. I always feel like I have seen them somewhere before. Wait. Could that animal be the moon crazy beast? Levin had seen this creature in books about magical beasts. The Moon Slayer is a very shy magical creature that only comes out of its cave at night when the moon is full. Their skin is smooth and light gray, and different species also have fur with other patterns. It has 4 slender legs, 4 flat feet underneath, and a pair of bulging eyes on the top of its head. As soon as they reach the moonlight, they will stand on their hind legs and start to dance a very complicated dance. People think this is part of the mating ritual of the moonsuckers, but the complex geometric patterns they leave in the wheat fields will make Muzz confused. They were very confused. Thinking of this, he suddenly understood where his sense of déjà vu in the picture came from. Because he has been there. Isn't this the Moonstone Garden? In the game called Hogwarts Legacy, Levin controls a 5th-year transfer student who came here with Hufflepuff's little girlfriend Pappy. Is it possible that the griffin I'm looking for is in the Moonstone Garden? However, the Moonstone Garden is too far away from London, because it is in Scotland, outside Hogwarts, near the South Sea marshes. You can't get there by normal means. But Levin still remembers the way there. Thinking of this, Levin picked up his wand, put a few tubes of uplifting potion into his robe, and immediately set off downstairs. He came to the fireplace in the leaky cauldron, grabbed a handful of flue powder, and threw it into the fireplace. With a roar, the fire turned green and rose higher than his whole body. Levin walked straight into the fire and shouted, "Irondale!" In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the fire. Chapter 41 Irondale, Moonstone Garden. This was Levin's first time using flue, and it didn't feel good. After being engulfed by the flames, he seemed to be sucked into a huge socket hole, and his body seemed to be spinning rapidly. The whistling sound in his ears was deafening. The short few seconds seemed as long as days. It wasn't until he felt the cold winter wind blowing that he realized that he had reached his destination. Levin looked up and saw that he was in front of an open fireplace, surrounded by a small village. The village is not big, with a rough count of about 10 houses. Because it is located in a mountainous area, the entire village is actually built on a hillside, and the heights of the houses are very obvious. The most conspicuous thing in the village is the windmill at the highest point, which looks like a little giant with a white hat under the dim night sky. It was Christmas Eve, and there was a fine amount of snow falling in the sky. Both the ground and the roofs were completely white, and all the cabins were brightly lit. Everyone was celebrating Christmas at home, and there was basically no one outside. This is Levin's destination, the village of Irondale. The Moonstone garden he was looking for was at the foot of the mountain ahead. The boy tightened his thick robe, took out his wand, and applied a series of buffs to himself. The toughness of the bear, the strength of the bull, the elegance of the cat, the majesty of the eagle, the cunning of the fox, the wisdom of the owl, mage armor, frost armor, obscurity, and oil on the soles of the feet. Strengthen yourself in all aspects before giving up. With the help of magic, Levin's physical fitness surpasses that of ordinary people in all aspects. A little bit of wind and snow couldn't stop him at all. Walking along the road in Irondale, at the speed he blessed with, oiling the soles of his feet. He walked for about 20 minutes before he saw the terrain similar to what he remembered. After all, the game is a game and can only be used as a reference. In reality, both Irondale and this hill are much larger than in the game. When he came to the familiar steep hillside, Levin did not go any further. Instead, he came to the cliff on the left and cast a spider walking technique for himself. This spell gives him the ability to crawl on walls like a spider. After confirming that there was no one else nearby, he climbed down the side of the mountain wall. It didn't take long for him to see the open space hidden in the mountain wall below. There are familiar stone formations in the open space. However, the stone formation at this time was covered with a layer of white snow, and there was neither the moon-crazy beast nor any mysterious symbols. Levin didn't take it seriously either, because the real destination was not here. He walked further and soon saw a smooth mountain wall. This made him frown. If the game is correct, there is a huge underground palace hidden in the mountain in front of you, and there is a treasure called Scholar's Moonstone hidden deep in the underground palace. Although I don't know why, knowledge of legends led him here. There is no doubt that if the griffin peak cannot be found outside, then it should be hidden in this underground palace. But what should have been the entrance to the underground palace cave is now a natural mountain wall. Could it be that his memory is wrong? Levin thought for a while and simply closed his eyes. Since you can't see it with your eyes, let's try it through perception. Psychic reconnaissance. The power of the mind turned into tentacles and spread forward, quickly touching the mountain wall. But there, Levin's spiritual tentacles sensed nothing, and were even able to continue deeper. This shows that the so-called mountain wall is not what it seems. The mountain wall is just an illusion. Is it illusion magic? Levin frowned, sensing something was wrong. He immediately chose to use detection magic on the mountain wall carefully. Sure enough, we found some clues. In addition to illusion magic, Levin also noticed traces of warning magic and expelling curse. And not long after these magics were cast, obviously, there's someone inside. Sneaking here on Christmas Eve is either a dark wizard or a poacher. Anyway, he won't be a good person. Levin immediately made a judgment. It seems that it is right to add so many buffs to yourself in advance. For a while, Levin began to wonder if he should leave. After all, he has only been exposed to magic for less than half a year, and he is in a period of insignificant development. It is not the time to show off his strength, and he should not confront others head-on. With his current means, it would be okay to encounter one or two dark wizards. If there were too many enemies, he wouldn't be able to deal with them. However, when he thought that the clues to the griffin's beak that he had finally obtained were lost like this, he was unwilling to accept it. What if this griffin beak is also the target of these people? What if the griffin's beak is on them? If I escape tonight, who knows when I will be able to find clues about the griffin's beak next time? How about we go in first to see the situation and then make a decision? My invisibility technique is far more effective than illusion spell. I rely on invisibility technique to go in and investigate. As long as I'm careful, I shouldn't be discovered by them. What if the people inside are not that strong, or if there is a chance to secretly take the griffin beak? Wouldn't it be a profit? Anyway, we are just exploring the road. If we really can't defeat it, it's not too late to leave, right? It's too cowardly to scare yourself away without even seeing anyone. After 5 minutes of careful consideration, Levin made his decision. Get in. So, he cast invisibility technique on himself, then carefully bypassed the warning magic and entered the underground palace. Walking straight along the corridor, Levin realized that the space inside was really quite big. This corridor alone goes tens of meters deep into the mountain, and there is a cave inside. At the end of the corridor, there is an open circular stone chamber, about 20 to 30 square meters. Levin looked around the room. The surrounding walls were composed of stone bricks and large stone slabs. The stone walls were covered with ancient Celtic-style reliefs and were surrounded by moss. They had a long history. There were lighting torches on the walls. According to Levin's observation, this was not the ancient fire of Kublai. In other words, these were all set on fire by the previous wave of visitors. This stone chamber is surrounded by 4 corridors. One is the direction he came from, and the other 3 are on the left and right sides and directly opposite the entrance. But the corridors on the right and opposite sides have collapsed over the years and are inaccessible. Only the corridor on the left is still open. Levin stepped forward, tested with his spiritual power, and confirmed that there was no one else behind the door. Then he opened the door slightly and continued forward. Seeing another long and deep corridor in front of him, Levin stepped lightly and carefully walked to the end of the corridor, where there was another stone door. He came to the door and used his psychic powers to conduct reconnaissance as before. Unlike last time, this time he heard the sound of human conversation. Levin heard a male voice say, "Have you hidden any wine? It's too boring to stay here and look after the door. Why don't you drink some?" Immediately afterwards, an English speaker with a serious accent that Levin could not recognize responded, "Are you crazy? If the boss knows that we drink while guarding the door, he will kill us." "What's the big deal?" the first voice said confidently. "On a good Christmas Eve, everyone is obviously staying by the warm fire with their families, but we are the only ones who have to stay in this cold tomb with a bunch of people. This treatment is too much for scum being together. Why don't you let us have a few sips?" "Maybe. You are right." The man with the accent seemed to be convinced, so there was a rustling sound behind the door, and soon he remembered the crisp sound of the glass bottle colliding with the stone, and the bubbles when the bottle was uncorked. Sound. It seems that they got the wine. After hearing this, Levin realized that his opportunity was coming. Chapter 42. The chicken almost froze. Drink more, drink more. Not long after, the sound of two people cheering each other came from behind the stone door. "Dulcie, I really didn't expect that you actually hid a package that extended the space," the first male voice with a standard accent said. "Aren't you afraid that the boss will be furious when he finds out?" "You're not afraid of drinking in private. Why would I be afraid of hiding a bag?" the foreign accent known as Darcy said proudly. "You're kidding. I'm very brave, okay? I'm very good at hiding." What follows is a series of conversations. "He is very good at hiding, so he is very brave. You have a good figure, quite strong." "Ted, what are you doing?" Just when Levin thought that these two drunk guys were going to have something to say, the conversation suddenly turned to another topic. He was immediately interested. Darcy suddenly asked, "We are drinking like this, what if someone breaks in again?" Ted laughed loudly. "Today is Christmas Eve. Even the heroes have to spend time with their families at home. Who would accompany the unlucky ones like us to play poker in the wilderness?" Levin outside the door felt that he was being touched for a moment, but he still suppressed his depression and continued to listen. "But, what do you say about the hero who was arrested today?" Darcy pointed out pointedly. "That bitch came to trouble us on Christmas Eve." "They actually arrested an hero today?" After hearing the news, the boy immediately became serious. Being able to catch heroes and not caring about them meant that the other party was a very professional team and had been dealing with heroes for a long time. In his mind, the enemy's threat level immediately increased. Being undermined by Darcy, Ted spat, "Bah, that bitch just graduated this year. What kind of bullshit is she?" Darcy was still a little worried. Even though she is a novice, she was caught by us after all. If someone comes to find her. No. Ted obviously knew much more than his companions. The boss said that the Ministry of Magic has not had any arrest missions recently, so it was just an accident that the bitch found us. And although there was no interrogation, I can see that she was not wearing a uniform when she was caught, which means that when she met us, it was completely it was a temporary act. Nothing will happen. Even if the Era boys find out that she is missing, it will be 2 or 3 days later. By then, the boss will have already found the treasure and escaped with us. Before we leave, maybe we brothers can put that bitch." Being comforted by Ted's burps, Darcy finally felt relieved. Then the two of them started drinking happily again. But Levin was thinking about it here. Judging from their conversation, the purpose of coming here is to hunt for treasure. And the only thing here that can be called a treasure is the scholar's Moonstone. The Moonstone is indeed a powerful magic item, containing the power of the moon. Not only can it attract the moon-crazy beasts to gather and multiply, but it can also catalyze the prophecy of the centaurs. If you get it, it may be helpful to your research on prophecy magic and natural magic. No matter how bad it is, it can be used to make friends with the centaurs in the Forbidden Forest, so that you can go to the Forbidden Forest to obtain materials in the future. Right now, these two people's defenses are very lax, so it's a good time to take action. Besides, it can be heard from their words that the captured Era is probably still alive. With luck, she's also a potential helper. After some analysis, Levin came to a decision. Done. But if you want to make a sneak attack, you have to pay attention to the appearance. The two people inside were drunk and obviously wanted to give him a chance. But to be truly foolproof, they have to be separated. Levin rolled his eyes and had an idea. He stuck it to the door again, quietly released the power of his mind, and brought the two of them into the surveillance of the mind field. Then using the power of the thought field, he quietly cast Suggestion Technique on one of them. Suggestion. A 3-ring magic control spell. You influence the subject's actions by suggesting that the subject takes a certain form of activity. Your suggestive words. You have to make that activity sound reasonable. Requiring the creature to commit self-mutilation will automatically invalidate the spell. You try to cast spells of the charm control system through the power of the mind. You understand that the essence of the charm control school is the control of the will of the mind. You understand the specialization of the charm control school. You understand their Mind Charm Controller. Your Mind Warlock level +1. Psychic Controller. Confusion spells can be regarded as psychic powers, and your psychic powers can be regarded as confusion spells. A simple attempt has yielded such great results. Levin was pleasantly surprised. The significance of Psychic Controller is that his magic control spells can not only be cast silently and at will like psychic powers, but also make his psychic powers have magical properties through super strengthened by various means such as magic. Just like now, Levin doesn't need to give hints face to face like a normal mage. Instead, through psychic abilities, the suggestion technique is cast into the enemy's heart without leaving any trace. Even if the other party breaks through the hint, he will only think that he is dizzy and will not realize that someone is secretly messing with him. Just like now, halfway through his meal, Ted suddenly felt the urge to urinate in his bladder. "Damn it, I feel like peeing when I drink," he muttered and stood up, wandering towards the door, not forgetting to remind his companion, "Don't finish the drink alone, leave more for me." Rest assured, after getting the promise from his companion, he staggered open the door. Levin had already taken a few steps back and stood aside against the wall. The person who walked out was a tall man, wearing all black clothes and a thick Scottish plaid scarf. He walked out with 1 foot deep and 1 foot shallow. Levin followed him all the way to the first hall and then walked into the corridor of the door. It seemed that the other party didn't want the place to be polluted by the smell of urine, so he specifically wanted to urinate outside. Doesn't this play into his heart? Levin followed him all the way to the door protected by the illusion, watched him spread a hot drink on the snow, and then suddenly took action. Ted had just finished draining the water and felt comfortable all over. He was about to take back his words when, unexpectedly, a young male voice came from behind. "Frost Nova." As soon as he finished speaking, he felt a cold energy envelope his whole body. His feet were frozen to the ground by the sudden ice, and the chicken that had not yet been recovered shivered instantly. He wanted to take out his wand from his right pocket, but the terrible cold instantly froze his arm, making his movements extremely stiff. His fingers finally touched the wand, but a force forced the wand away. Then, in his horrified eyes, more frost began to spread upward from his feet, and he stopped when he was about to cover the chicken. Then he saw a black-haired boy about 1.5 meters tall and who looked to be at least 11 or 12 years old appearing in front of him. Chapter 43 Interrogating the Poachers. If it weren't for the cold chill all over my body now and the childish voice that recited the magic spell just now, even if he saw his wand in the opponent's hand, Ted could not connect the attacker with the child in front of him. "What are you doing here for?" The boy said cold and ruthless words in a childish voice. "Think carefully before you speak. If you tell a lie, I will let the frost spread an inch up your waist." With that said, Levin waved his wand threateningly, and Ted's wrist was also covered by a mass of ice, making him unable to move. Stimulated by the ice, no matter how drunk he was, he woke up. "Although I don't understand what spell the other party just cast." But realizing that the other party really had the ability to control the ice, Ted was really panicked. He knew very well that if the ice spread 2 inches further to his waist, it would cover those words. Those words are much more fragile than hands and feet. If you are frozen like this, there are only 2 endings. Either you will never get hard, or you will never get hard. He doesn't want to do anything. So he immediately trembled and said with trembling words in fear, "We are a group of tomb robbers. We came here to steal the funerary objects. Please forgive me." This gentleman. Before he finished speaking, he felt the cold air spreading upward an inch. Now even a pair of Ringo can feel the chill. "HMPH, you are indeed dishonest. You came to Moonstone Garden to rob tombs. Are you bullying me for being young and uneducated? What are you doing?" When he heard the words Moonstone Garden appear in the other party's mouth, Ted knew that he could not hide it from the other party. You know, even his boss found this name in a forgotten history after looking through countless old books. Now that this secret was revealed casually by the other party, it showed that the other party was more powerful than he imagined. Then their actions are probably under the control of the other party. "I just don't know whether the other party is from the Ministry of Magic or..." Ted kept thinking in his mind, but apologized again and again. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to lie. I'm sorry. Actually, we don't have any conflicts, right? If you can let me go, we will be very grateful." This time, before he could finish speaking, he felt the ice on his wrist begin to spread until it froze his entire arm. "You answer whatever I ask. And if I don't ask you just shut up. Or you can choose to give up your arm." "No. No. Don apostrophe T. I was wrong. Just ask. I will answer whatever you ask." This time, Ted was really scared. The other party's ruthlessness and decisiveness in killing at the slightest disagreement are not at all like a child of this age. He seriously suspected that this was some old man who had returned to youth. But no matter what, Ted no longer dared to have any ideas of his own at this time. Levin answers whatever he asks. It didn't take long for Levin to figure out who he was dealing with. It turns out that these two people are not dark wizards, but belong to a group of poachers. Poachers in the magical world are similar to those in the mole world. It's just that they poached magical creatures, while mole poachers hunted ordinary animals. They are also poachers, But these people in the magical world are far more extreme and more powerful than their counterparts in the mul world. They say that high profits can make people lose their minds. The rate of return for poaching in the magical world is much higher than that in the mul world. After all, for muls who have achieved industrialization, the furs of rare birds and beasts can only be used as decorations. But the materials in magical animals can really make powerful alchemical products and potions. This makes the poachers in the magical world quite crazy, especially after the promulgation of the confidentiality law. The struggle between poachers and the Ministry of Magic has intensified, almost reaching the point of tit for tat. Many poacher organizations are no longer even satisfied with petty theft, but simply dominate the mountains and occupy places like castles as their bases, openly confronting the Ministry of Magic. The 18th and 19th centuries were the most rampant years for poachers in the wizarding world. Originally the Great Yin was like this, until the end of the 19th century. In that hidden history, the entire gang of dark wizards and poachers around Hogwarts disappeared for unknown reasons. This directly led to Da Yin's poacher organization being silent for nearly 100 years. The dark wizards only rose again with the emergence of 2 generations of dark lords. According to Ted, their boss Peekle Curtis is descended from a powerful group of poachers. His ancestors were once powerful men near Hogwarts, but for some reason they suddenly went dormant 100 years ago. It was not until a few decades ago that, taking advantage of the rise of the Dark Lord, Peekle returned to his family's old business and gathered a group of younger brothers to engage in poaching. The reason why he came here is because Peekle learned about the treasures here from the classics left at home. It is said that this treasure is related to centaurs and the almost extinct magical creature Golden Snidget. The Golden Snidget is an extremely rare and specially protected bird. Its body is round and round, its mouth is particularly slender, and its eyes are sparkling like rubies. This is an extremely fast-flying bird that can change its flight direction with incredible speed and skill because the joints of its wings can flexibly rotate. In the original Quidditch, the seeker was not chasing the golden snitch, but the living snitch. As the sport of Quidditch spread, the number of gold snidgets dwindled until they were on the verge of extinction. Nowadays, because golden snidgets are extremely endangered, they are protected animals all over the world and are strictly protected. Therefore, if they can get the golden Faxia, it will be an absolute huge profit for their poacher organization. So Peekle Curtis came here with 8 of his men. After understanding the causes and consequences of the poachers, Levin nodded. I have a general understanding of the situation of you and your accomplices, but you never mentioned the Aura you met. How is she? Hearing this, Ted's body began to tremble again, and his face was as pale as a layer of white frost. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hide it from you. I just forgot to mention that thing. Don't let the ice spread anymore. This time his panic was genuine. He really didn't expect that this boy actually knew about auras. This once again proved the other party's magical power, and their every move was under the surveillance of the other party. He was also really afraid that the other party would think that he deliberately didn't mention the auras. Levin pouted, feeling a little funny in his heart. This burly man was really scared of him. On one side, he still maintained an indifferent expression. Shut up, just tell me what happened to that aura. Yes. Ted immediately stopped crying and talked about the auras tremblingly. We met her by accident before we came in. The disguise Magus. She tried to disguise herself as a nearby villager, and we discovered it. We captured her, but we didn't do anything to her because the boss was eager to explore the ruins, so we just tied her up and locked her in a separate room. Having said this, the wizard swallowed and continued, that Aura is very young. It is said that he just graduated this year. He has pink hair and is very conspicuous. Levin nodded after hearing this. He had already guessed who this Aura was. Last question, do any of you carry griffin-related items with you? The wizard was silent for a moment, and when Levin was almost impatient, he quickly answered, yes, our Peekle has a pendant made of a griffin's beak. He always carries that thing on his chest, often like us show off. He said it was passed down from his family and represents the glorious past of the Curtis family. Does their glorious past prove that they once poached a griffin? It was indeed something a family of poachers could do. Levin nodded, and now the goal of this trip was clear. According to a third person, since the treasure is in your hands, then you have a way to die. Chapter 44 Double Kill. After asking the last question, Levin fell into silence. The wizard named Ted looked at him pitifully, as if begging for his forgiveness with his eyes. Both parties knew that after the questions were asked, it was time to decide his fate. Levin glanced at the wizard's pale face, took a deep breath, and pointed the wand in his hand at him. In an instant, the frost spread over his body even faster, covering his whole body before he could cry out. I know the crazy things you poachers do. Whether it's wizards, muzz or magical animals, as long as you can make a profit, it's your goal, so don't blame me. You deserve it. Levin said to himself in a cold voice. It is a cold judgment, and it is also an excuse for one's own heart. The ice won't kill you directly. If you're lucky, you might be able to hold on until I come back, and then the Aura should spare your life. Levin did not choose to kill him not only because he could not break through his own psychological barrier, He has been a man for 2 lifetimes. What else can he not accept? He did this mainly because of the Capturer. According to the wizard's confession just now, after being caught, Thera just took away his wand and tied it up hastily. He was not tortured or abused. This means that as long as he can rescue her, he will immediately gain combat power. Levin knows very well that relying on his own words alone may not be able to clear out the remaining 8 poachers in the ruins. If you want to get the Griffin Peak pendant and the Scholar Moonstone, you may need the help of Thera. No normal would like a little wizard who can kill people wantonly. Levin didn't kill the wizard, but just froze him, just to make a good first impression on potential teammates. If Thera is indeed who he guessed, so after this incident, they will have more opportunities to get along in the future, but they can't let this first impression go wrong. After dealing with a wizard named Ted, Levin cast an invisibility spell, again on himself, returned to the corridor, and came all the way to the room where he had been drinking. Then he bumped into a drunken man with blonde hair and a hooked nose, holding a wine glass and walking out. As he walked, he shouted in his serious accent, Ted, where are you? If you have the ability to pee, you have the ability to keep drinking. It can't be that I can't drink enough and I want to pee to escape. Levin is invisible and completely invisible to the naked eye. In addition, alcohol destroyed the other person's senses, so that the blonde wizard was in front of Levin. The 2 sides were only less than 20 centimeters apart, and no one was found in front of him. Seeing how cool this guy was, Levin immediately felt relieved. This time, he didn't even use magic. He stepped forward and grabbed the opponent's wand, then kicked him over. After that, Shiren used freezing rays to seal the opponent's hands and feet. The sudden cold finally made the drunkard named Darcy realize what was happening. He looked at the boy in front of him in panic, hesitating and unable to say a word. Levin remained expressionless, looking at the other person condescendingly, but the words spoken in his immature voice seemed so cold. You are right, your companion who went to the toilet has fallen into my hands. Through interrogation, I got a lot of information from your companion. Now, let's play a question and answer game. If your answer is inconsistent with your companion's, then one of you will regret coming to this world. The blonde wizard looked at the childlike Levin with fear in his eyes. Where did this little evil star come from? He was obviously a child, but he said devilish words. Next, Levin repeated the question he had asked the wizard Ted before. The blonde wizard did not dare to hide it at all and told him all the information he knew. Overall, it is very different from the previous confession. You're smart, Darcy, and you didn't lie. Levin smiled with satisfaction, making the other party shudder again. In that case, sir, can you let us both go? Darcy made a somewhat naive request, hoping that the little evil star would be confused for a moment. But he underestimated Levin's sanity. He shook his head and cast Frost Nova again on the opponent. Within a few moments, the wizard was covered in frost like his companions. Levin didn't forget to search him, including his companions. Levin found nearly 100 galleons in total. Sure enough, it's a gold belt that kills people and sets them on fire. Best of all, Levin got a dragon skin wallet with a space-expanding spell cast on it. It was the one that the blonde wizard kept privately. The interior space of the wallet is not large, only about 1 cubic meter, and can only be used to hold gifts. This is normal. Not any space container can be like Newt Scamander's suitcase, which can hold a zoo. Then, Levin did not rush to find the Capturer, but searched the room. Sure enough, the room these 2 men were guarding was the temporary camp of this group of poachers, and it was also the place where they held the ceremony. Here, Levin collected more belongings, including several ash snake eggs, a bundle of silencing bird feathers and a series of other materials, which he put into his new wallet. With these gains, Levin became invisible again, and then continued walking deeper into the ruins according to the confessions of the 2 wizards. Passing through 2 shattered stone doors, Levin came to a new rotunda. Here, instead of continuing forward, he chose to open the side door. Behind the decayed side door is a dark and narrow room. There are no torches lit here, and I can't see my fingers. Levin flicked his wand. Dancing lights. A faint point of light flew out from the tip of the staff and headed towards the depths of the room. Levin himself remained at the door, hidden in the darkness. In this way, as long as the light hits the enemy, he will be able to see him immediately. But the person who is illuminated cannot see him in the darkness. Fortunately, the information from the 2 wizards was still correct. There aren't any enemies in this room. At the end of the room, the light spot of the dancing light technique only illuminated a guy who was tied into a rice dumpling, staring at the light spot in front of him in surprise. She was a quite young girl, about 20 years old, with a beautiful heart-shaped face and a pair of black eyes, sparkling under the light of dancing lights. The most eye-catching thing was her shawl of pink hair. Hair makes this girl look different. She is the only disguise magus in the original work, a member of the Order of the Phoenix, and the lover of Remus John Lupin, Nymphadora Tonks. In fact, Levin had already guessed her identity during the interrogation process. After all, her features are so obvious. But now that he really saw her, Levin still felt his eyes light up. This girl is much more beautiful than she is in the movie. The character's image in the movie is really biased. At least the original book doesn't say that Tonks has a big nose. The Tonks in front of him undoubtedly fit his aesthetic perfectly. Chapter 45 Nymphadora Tonks. Split into pieces. Levin pointed his wand lightly, and the rope around Tonks broke. Then, Levin followed the same procedure and untied the bandage that blocked her mouth. Thank you very much. The female squinted her eyes and finally adapted to the dim light in front of her eyes. She was about to say thank you when she saw clearly the identity of the wizard who rescued her. Child, why are you here? I came here to hunt for treasure. Who knew there were poachers here and a captured? Levin gave a rough reason. As he spoke, he took out a stimulating potion from his pocket and poured it into Tonks' mouth. After drinking the potion, her complexion improved a little, and she breathed a sigh of relief and said, "The preparations are quite complete, thank you. Have you brought anything to eat?" Here. Levin handed over another piece of dry bread. "This is from those poachers' camps, just make do with it." Levin had already tasted a piece of bread before, and it was dry and tasteless. But the female didn't dislike it at all. She ate hungrily, took Levin's water bottle, and drank a lot of water. Finally saved. After sighing, the female touched Levin's head enthusiastically. "Thank you, little brother. If it weren't for you, I might have died here. I owe you my life." "Don't call me little brother." With a dark face, Levin calmly avoided the hand on his head and handed over 2 wands. "My name is Levin Green. Try it. Which of these 2 wands do you feel better about?" "Thank you, little brother. Well, it's Mr. Green. My name is Nymphadora Tonks. Don't call me Nympha. Nympha in Nymphadora means abalone, small lips. That's a dirty word. Just call me Tonks." Tonks took the 2 wands, tried them out, and then handed one back to Levin and held the other in her hand. "It's a pity that my own wand was broken by them." "Where did you get these 2 wands?" "Where else could it be taken from?" "Of course it was taken from the hands of the 2 gatekeepers." Seeing that she could use magic normally, Levin nodded with satisfaction. "Well, Tonks, just call me Levin." "Can you stand up? Can you walk? I'll give it a try." "Hey, Levin, can't you hold me a little longer?" Tonks tried to stand up on her own, but the long-term restraint made her hands and feet numb, and she stumbled with a little force, so she had to seek help from Levin. Her embarrassment made Levin laugh for a while, so he put Tonks' arm on his shoulders, lifted her up, and took her to the small room for rehabilitation training. Soon, the uplifting potion and bread came into play. Tonks shook off her numbness for a moment, then broke away from the support and took a few steps on her own. Feeling that she could move normally, Tonks immediately walked out of the room with Levin, asking with concern as they walked, "You said you met 2 poachers when you came here and took away their wands. What did you do to them?" "What else could I do? I couldn't kill him, and I was afraid of them reporting the news. Of course I trapped them." "Well, just like this, I left another person at the gate." Levin took Tonks to the poachers' camp and pointed out the blonde wizard who was frozen in the ice to Tonks. It wasn't until she saw it with her own eyes that Tonks believed that the young boy in front of her had really defeated 2 adult wizards on his own. This surprised her very much, especially when she saw that he used the rather rare magic of freezing. "I didn't expect that your curse would be so powerful at such a young age. I would never have been able to do this when I was your age. But Tonks hesitated for a moment, then spoke to comfort her. "At such a young age, you should stay in school and play with your classmates. You shouldn't be exposed to such things." "Are you also from Hogwarts?" "What grade is this year?" "I just joined Hogwarts this year as a Ravenclaw." Although he had known that his age was a problem, Levin still rolled his eyes angrily when he was treated like a child. "Age is not directly related to maturity, Tonks. Don't forget that you were saved by a child like me." Levin's words left Tonks speechless, holding back a lot of words of advice. "Yes, no matter how much I claim to be older and more mature, I still haven't been captured by a poaching team." "But the child who saved him was able to defeat 2 adult wizards on his own." "From this point of view, I was indeed too reckless, as my mentor said. Even this little boy is more suitable to be an era than himself." But she didn't want to be at a disadvantage. "Don't be so aggressive, Junior. This is me, the senior, sharing valuable life experience. I'm a Hufflepuff. I just graduated this year, and now I am an intern." Tonks sounded proud when she said this. It's no wonder that Hogwarts graduates are quite eras and need to have excellent grades. Specifically, it requires at least 5 NEWT certificates, and the scores must not be lower than good. This is enough to get rid of most people. But Levin didn't buy it. "It's obvious that even if you're not a trainee, you wouldn't be stupid enough to be caught by a group of thieves." "You actually said that they are a group of thieves." "If Peekle hears this, he will strangle you to death." After Tonks finished complaining, she tried to defend her captive and said, "In fact, if it wasn't because I was attacked by them, it wouldn't have been a big problem if I ran away." "Well, I mean, if my transformation of disguise mags was discovered." "Disguise mags? You should have heard of it." "In short, if I hadn't been careless and didn't dodge, those poachers alone wouldn't be able to deal with me, Anara." "Ah, you weren't caught just because you were a bad guy?" Levin nodded and pointedly pointed out, "Then it can only be because he is stupid." Even though he has such a powerful ability as disguise mags, he still showed his flaws and was caught. "No matter how you think about discovering your identity, It's not something a smart person can do. You are such an unpleasant child. You are so good at telling people off. Even if you know this kind of thing, don't say it. Can't you save some face for me? Tonks was speechless and could only smile bitterly. Road. Humphrey, who told you to treat me like a child all the time? The two of them were bickering as they walked, and actually laughed at the same time as they talked. Of these two people, Levin is only 11 years old on the surface, but is much more mature mentally. Tonks, on the other hand, was obviously 18 years old and an adult, but her mentality was still lively. After all, she had just graduated, and she still couldn't get rid of her Hogwarts state for a while, and when she was a student, she was an out-and-out master of pranks. After arriving at the gate and confirming that the other poacher was still alive, Tonks nodded and turned to Levin. It's really too dangerous here. How about I send you out first and then go back to the Ministry of Magic to bring in some reinforcements? Tonks suggested, considering Levin's safety concerns. But Levin refused. I don't want it. What if we just go in and deal with them? You, Thera, can't do it, right? According to the intelligence, there are 6 of them. How many can you deal with? Don't talk nonsense. I have to send you back first. Tonks was a little anxious. Listen, Levin, I'm grateful that you took the risk to rescue me, but this is a battle for adult wizards. I can't let you continue to take risks. Otherwise, how will you explain it to your parents and Hogwarts? So don't you're making trouble. Let me take you back. Thank you for your concern, but I don't have parents and I can take responsibility for my own safety. Facing Tonks' kindness, Levin just shook his head. Therefore, my choice is to say no. Chapter 46 Laying Out the Future. Why do you have to go in? Being rejected by Levin, Tonks was very puzzled. There is a whole gang of poachers here. You don't really think of them as ordinary thieves, do you? I came here to hunt for treasure, and this group of poachers are also looking for the same treasure. If they go to the Ministry of Magic, at their speed, God knows how long it will take. This is Christmas Eve, and then they will run away with the treasure. What should I do? Tonks nodded. As Inra, even if she had only been employed for half a year, she knew very well the efficiency of the Ministry of Magic. Besides, even if the Ministry of Magic's support arrives in time, after these poachers are eliminated, who'll own the loot? Then my trip will be in vain. In short, whether you can get in or not, I am going in anyway, Levin said with an air of indifference. Levin's attitude put Tonks in a dilemma. Seeing that he was really ready to leave, she stamped her feet angrily. Okay, I'll just go in with you. 437. Maybe she couldn't win over Levin and didn't trust her. Maybe she also had the idea of taking risks in her heart. In short, under Levin's encouragement, Tonks agreed. It's no wonder that at this time, she is not the mature female she will be when she fights against Voldemort in the future. Now she has neither joined the Order of the Phoenix nor knows Lupin. It can be said that her views are undecided. Levin provoked her like this, which was actually a kind of temptation, to explore the possibility of going one step further and win her over as one of his own. I saw Tonks grabbing Levin and saying seriously, "Hey, brother Levin, I agreed to go in with you." "Yes, but I am Thera. You have to promise that you will follow my command after you go in. Do you understand?" "Yes, Sister Tonks." Although he hates being treated like a child, since Levin is getting an advantage, he naturally has to behave. However, while the other party agreed to his request, the boy planned to go even further. "Well, Sister Tonks, since you agreed to go in with me, how about helping others? You know how to use the forgetting charm." "I can. What's wrong?" "These 2 prisoners, please use the forgetting spell on them. I don't want them to remember me. Besides, the same goes for the next enemies." "What's the reason for this?" Tonks asked. "Think about it. I'm just an ordinary little wizard, not an Ira. I don't need the credit for catching poachers. When the time comes, they will forget about me, and all the credit will be yours," Levin said embarrassedly. "Besides, what if they get caught and expose my name? These poachers are so rampant and some of them are accomplices. Maybe the Ministry of Magic has their spies. I don't want to be targeted by these people." "Little slippery. Now you know that you are an ordinary little wizard." After hearing Levin's explanation, Tonks was angry and amused. "You can only give me 1 credit. I think that he is the latter reason." Tonks made fun of Levin, but she readily agreed. The two dragged the 2 prisoners to the fire. After Levin cancelled the freezing effect, Tonks recast the spell to restrain the 2, and neatly used the forgetting charm to make them forget the past few hours. Memories generated. The hidden danger came into contact. Levin looked at Tonks in front of him and nodded with satisfaction. After this trial, he finally understood the character of Sister Tonks. All in all, at this age, she is still a carefree girl who dares to love and hate. In terms of good and evil, although she is an Ira, she prefers to help relatives rather than helping others, and is not very particular about methods. This can be seen from the fact that she did not hesitate to hide it for Levin and use the forgetting spell to clear the memory of the captive. Come out. In short, he was not poisoned by Dumbledore. More importantly, she seems to like herself very much, whether it was because of Levin's life-saving grace or because he was charmed by him. In short, even without using psychic powers, Levin can feel the other party's love for him. This kind of love is like a sister's love for her brother. However, It is not ruled out that this relationship will develop in other ways in the future. For people like Tonks, liking someone basically means being willing to side with him without any thought. In this way, establishing contact with Tonks may be the real reward of this trip. Levin thought to himself. Although I have only enrolled for half a year, although not yet fully developed, but Levin has already foreseen the future battle over his own ideas. He deeply believes that with his own growth rate, it won't take long before Voldemort and Dumbledore can do nothing to him. But in future battles, personal strength is only one aspect. After all, humans are social animals. If you don't want to overthrow the entire magical world, kill all the wizards in the house, and alienate everyone, then Levin has to think about how to deal with his relationship with Dumbledore and the entire magical world after his rise. In any society, the rise of emerging forces will be scrutinized, co-opted and suppressed by the inherent forces. With Levin's character, he will not be a lowly person and suppress himself in order not to get into trouble. Then it is certain that he will conflict with Dumbledore and the wizarding world. After all, he had a lot of dislike for Dumbledore and the wizarding world at this time. Since you are not willing to suppress yourself, then Levin has only one decision. That is turn this unhappy world into what you want it to be. And to do that, you have to find a group of like-minded people. In fact, in Hogwarts, Wen has already started to do this. The appearance of Tonks made him see the possibility of reaching into the Ministry of Magic. Just think of it as planning in advance. Finally, as far as he was concerned, having a sister like Tonks was not bad. At least it was good for the eyes, especially since the other party was a disguise magus. The so-called disguise magus, as the name suggests, is the ability to change one's own appearance at will. This ability is innate, and the owner of the ability can change his appearance, hair color and other physical characteristics. As long as the body size difference is not too big, Tonks can change into any shape, known as Little Ruoin. This ability makes you feel good just thinking about it. Thinking of this, Levin had a thought in his mind and took the initiative. Sister Tonks, don't be in a hurry to use the illusion curse. Just teach me about sneaking. With that said, he used the invisibility spell on the two of them in front of Tonks. Vera watched helplessly as the two of them became completely transparent. That effect puts even the invisibility cloak at a disadvantage. Facing this novel magic, Tonks' reaction was exactly the same as Hermione's before. What kind of magic is this? Did you create this magic yourself? Can I learn this magic? Since the other party is someone who needs to be won over, Levin naturally adopts the same attitude as Hermione. Tell everything he knows and tell him everything. It seems that I underestimated you, Brother Levin. Looking at the handsome boy in front of her, Tonks suppressed the shock in her heart and said quietly, so, the spell you used to freeze them before, as well as the flying light spot in 1.7, were all your own magic spells? Humphrey, of course, who makes me a genius. In front of Tonks, Levin showed a hint of youthful pride. No matter how mature his actual mind is, in terms of his body and the hormones in his body, Levin is still a teenager. Yes, Brother Levin is the most genius. Tonks touched Levin's head based on feeling. Then it's agreed that in addition to invisibility, you will also teach me these magics, as long as you are willing to learn. In this way, the temporarily formed brother and sister walked side by side and headed deep into the ruins. Chapter 47 Firepower Superiority Doctrine. The two of them walked forward and soon returned to the rotunda where the small room where Tonks was previously held was located. What a coincidence. I happened to bump into two wizards returning here from the depths of the ruins. But when Levin saw them, they just opened the door of the small room and discovered the situation inside. No, that ran away. Someone must have been here. You go find the two gatekeepers, and I'll inform the boss. One of them quickly ordered. Take action. We can't let them notify others. Tonks ordered decisively. Fainted. Crazy laughter technique. The two people who reacted quickly cast the spell almost at the same time. One of the wizards was hit by Tonks' spell and was knocked straight into the wall, where he passed out. The other one fell into hysterical laughter. The laughter had no reason, but could not stop. The loud laughter was so strange to the ears. Another novel magic. Tonks couldn't help but glance at Levin. This magic is somewhat similar to their Creek Curse, Grin and Hula-La, but the effect is more powerful. The smile seems to directly act on the spirit, so it is difficult and impossible to resist. Tonks had seen with her own eyes that the other party was laughing so hard that he couldn't even straighten his waist, let alone cast a spell to resist. But in addition, Tonks was stunned by Levin's reaction speed, which was almost as fast as hers. You know, as a trainee, 06 Tonks' reaction speed is often praised by her superiors. Even among errors, her reaction speed is one of the best. The younger brother she recognized was indeed an all-around genius. Seeing that both of them had no strength to resist, Tonks stepped forward, confiscated their wands, and imprisoned them all before sighing. Thank God, we arrived in time. If it had been any later, they would have discovered our affair. This is a blessing in disguise, isn't it? Levin winked at her. Now we only have 5 poachers left to face. You are right to say that. So Levin cast invisibility again and continued walking inside with Tonks. After passing through a passage, There is another circular stone palace. Compared with the previous rooms, this stone palace is the widest and the most luxuriously decorated. The surrounding walls are covered with reliefs of various artifacts and animals, such as centaur, green Shiluo, Chimelalu, June. There are several brass braziers around the stone palace, and the braziers are burning with blue-white flames, which are obviously lit by magic. The most eye-catching thing in the stone palace is the huge metal door in the center. The door is covered with patterns drawn in ancient Celtic style, with magic gems inlaid at the key points of the pattern. Through Detect Magic, Levin can see the aura of magic on the door. This is undoubtedly a magic door guarding the treasure hidden in the ruins. Scholar Kishi. 4 or 5 wizards were surrounding the gate, holding wands and studying something. It seems that it is this magic door that stands between them and Scholar G. This makes Levin want to solve the mystery. Of course, solving puzzles in reality is by no means as simple as using fluorescent flashes to guide a few bronze moths to fly to a designated location. This undoubtedly contains complex magic patterns and ancient magical knowledge. At this time, Tonks was observing the poachers. They were all dressed in the same way, either wearing dark cloaks or dark coats. In short, all of them had their heads hidden and their tails exposed. At first glance, they didn't look like people doing serious work. The leader among them was wearing a purple cloak and a ferocious mask. That's the leader of this group of poachers, Peekle Curtis. Tonks stared at the other person closely and introduced Levin in a low voice. According to the documents in the ministry, this guy rose up at the same time as the Dark Lord and led the second largest poacher organization in the underworld. It is said that they have maintained long-term trade relations with Death Eaters. His own behavior style is also close to that of Death Eaters. He has powerful magic power and is very ruthless, so be careful about him when the time comes. Don't worry, Sister Tonks. Facing 5 adult wizards, one of whom was a powerful dark wizard, Levin smiled confidently. Just leave Peekle to me. I have a unique spell that can temporarily restrain. He takes 5 seconds, during which time we quickly clear the minions and finally focus our fire to kill him. This ... Okay, I believe you. Tonks hesitated for a moment and could only agree. Levin's endless homemade spells gave her confidence. Peekle Curtis did not know that his 4 younger brothers had fallen into the enemy's hands, and that 2 enemies were sneaking up behind them. At this time, he was focusing on the magic door in front of him, trying various methods. Damn it. Why didn't the classics say that there is such a magic door in this ruins? After another attempt to unlock the door failed, Peekle's fist knocked heavily on the door, and there was a muffled sound. But this level of physical attack has no effect on the gate. It still stands in front of poachers, preventing them from obtaining the treasures in the depths. Garbleth, can you decipher the magic pattern here? Peekle turned to one of his men with glasses and urged loudly, you have been studying it for 3 hours. It ''s ... not healed yet, boss. Gabrieleth said with a cry. The magic pattern here is too old. I haven't learned many words, and I can't do this question. Useless stuff. Peekle cursed angrily, and was about to turn to another person to ask how the alchemy potion was prepared. Suddenly, he felt an invisible force suddenly enter his mind. He didn't react at all. The force was like a sharp iron nail, piercing her fragile brain like tofu cubes. Ah! The shrill screams echoed in the closed stone room. Suffering the attack of Levin's psychic stab, the dark wizard immediately collapsed on the ground, holding his head in his hands. His slender fingers deeply buried in the messy hair under the hood, and cold sweat was already dripping on his locked forehead. Under the firelight, there was a crystal clear shimmer. The severe pain, as if his brain had been disrupted, prevented him from concentrating any consciousness or thinking, let alone casting a spell to counterattack. Piccolo Curtis was temporarily incapacitated. Seeing that the enemy was no longer a threat, Levin and Tonks appeared at the same time to take action. Levin took the lead, consuming a lot of magic power, and cast the first wave of control on the poachers. Instant middle frost nova. With Levin as the center, the power of the ice element quickly spreads forward in a fan shape. The unsuspecting poachers were attacked one after another. Their feet were immediately frozen in place, and they temporarily lost their mobility. And the strong cold air also made their movements fall for half a beat. Tonks' attacks followed. Thunderbolt explosion. In this case, she didn't have time to care about the regulations, so she directly used the most powerful dark magic 083 method she had mastered. This is what she would have done 6 or 7 years later in the original work. Not this step. A powerful blasting spell exploded among the poachers, and immediately 2 poachers were seriously injured and flew backwards, while the rest also vomited blood. Thunderbolt explosion. Fireball technique. In the second wave of attacks, Levin and Tonks still adopted fire coverage tactics. Several poachers were knocked upside down in the rumbling explosions, and few of them had the strength to resist. This was the tactic that Levin and Tonks had agreed upon in advance. Adhering to the tactical concept of interspersing tactics when you are poor, and bombing me when you are rich, when you see the enemy, you should bomb it first no matter what. There are no exciting duels, no exciting magic confrontations, just one-sided indiscriminate bombing. Now it seems that the results are very successful. Although the cost of this type of spell is a bit high, it is undoubtedly worth it to wipe out the enemy in 2 waves. At this time, Pickle finally recovered from the severe pain of mind stab. Looking at his men who suffered heavy losses in a sneak attack, he couldn't help but feel angry and scared. He had no idea what kind of methods the enemy used to cause him so much pain and miss his opportunity. If it weren't for the defensive power of his water monster skin cloak, the few waves of explosions just now would have been enough to send him away. Now, he must make these enemies pay the price. Damners, and this damn child, you actually dare to sneak up on me and kill my men. You have already angered me. Pray for yourself, because next, I will make you regret that you are in this world. Chapter 48. The sense of oppression from the Dark Wizard. Facing an aggressive enemy, Tonks would not tolerate him. Adhering to the principle that a dead Dark Wizard is a good wizard, he launched an attack directly. Fainted. Armor protection. Piccolo waved his wand and turned aside the red light of the coma spell. Just this move made Yuen feel his pressure. Iron Armor spell is a spell that can resist various spells. It can create a magical barrier to deflect spells and physical entities, thereby protecting specific people or specific areas. In wizard battles, the Iron Armor Curse is the most basic defensive spell, and most wizards can learn it. But the use of Iron Armor Curse is the best criterion for distinguishing the strength of wizards. Ordinary wizards chant the spell obediently and resist head-on. A strong wizard chant the incantation casually, and cast the incantation in the air. Real master, no need to recite incantations, just pick random enemy incantations. Among these, there are 2 key factors, the speed of chanting the spell, and whether the enemy spell can be deflected. As any novice wizard knows, the 4 elements required to cast a spell are, wand gesture, incantation, concentration, and intention. The so-called wand gesture is the way of waving a wand. Different spells have different movements of waving the wand when casting. Most people cannot use 2 spells in a row, because even if you can recite them, the wand gesture cannot respond. The advantage of Iron Armor Curse is that it completely frees up the wand gesture. Not only does it consume low mana, but you can also use Iron Armor Curse to block while casting offensive spells. There is no need to be like a novice, stupidly carrying the Iron Armor Curse, like an infantryman holding up a shield. Either you can't defend if you want to attack, or you can't attack if you want to defend. Masters like Flitwick and Snape can silently cast the Iron Armor Curse, and deflect the enemy's attacks at will, just like using chopsticks to pick up vegetables. The Pickle in front of him belonged to the second stage. He recited the spell for a second and just deflected the enemy's attack. According to Levin's level classification, he is probably around LV13 LV15. For Levin, a first-year freshman, and Tonks, a novicer, this was already a master. Pickle's ability to do this means that their normal attacks can be resisted by the opponent. What is the difference between this and being unable to break defense? Damn it, Expelliarmus! Fainted. Tonks did not believe in evil and attacked again, and Levin also attacked together. But Piccolo flicked left and right, throwing the 2 spells to both sides. Weak, poor, weak. Such a weak spell is of no use to me. With a proud smile, he resisted the 2 attacks while advancing slowly. Even if he hasn't launched an attack yet, he still looks very oppressive. Damn it, none of our spells have any effect. Levin, use your special attack, the one that defeated him before. Tonks couldn't help but remind him. Okay. Mind stab. Levin held his breath and concentrated, condensed his mental energy into a needle, and blasted it into Pickle's mind again. But this time, the attack that was thought to be foolproof had no effect. Mind stab is like a mud cow entering the sea, unable to make any waves at all. Pickle only felt a slight pain in his head, and then felt nothing again. He immediately showed a proud smile. Yujun, your special attack, the one that gave me a headache and ringing in my ears, is indeed just a special application of Legilimency. As long as I activate a Clumency, your attack will be completely ineffective. Now that all your methods have failed, there is nothing you can do against me. Your attack is over. Now it's my turn. Shattered to pieces. Armor protection. Tonks gritted her teeth and blocked Levin with the Iron Armor Curse. Unlike Pickle, who easily picked off the enemy's curse, the female era was immediately beaten and took a few steps back. The magic power gap between the 2 sides is too big. Pickle's attack was not something she could easily block. On this side, after hearing Pickle's words, Levin felt a chill in his heart. The Shin's abilities have always been a plug-in to his plug-in, a supplement to his magical power. Whether it is investigating or charming others, in many places where magic cannot work, as long as the power of the mind is applied, miraculous effects can be produced. In this magical world, his spiritual power has always been invincible. At least that's what Levin thought until then. Until now, Pickle in front of him actually used a Clumency to block his psychic stab. This result was completely beyond his expectation, but it was also reasonable. The reason why the power of the soul is invincible is that it directly acts on the most mysterious field, the spirit. Neither Muzz nor ordinary wizards have done any in-depth research on this field. At this time, his psychic powers can exert the ability of dimensionality reduction strike. But this does not mean that all magicians have no research on the spiritual field. In the world of Harry Potter, The research results in the spiritual field are legilimency and occlumency. Occlumency is essentially a defense against the mind. It makes perfect sense to be able to withstand Levin's psychic stab. Levin was only shocked for a moment, then calmed down and thought about it all. Just because the opponent's occlumency can block psychic stab, it doesn't mean that psychic powers are useless. It's just that the psychic power has changed from high-dimensional confrontation to equal-level confrontation, and it cannot exert the effect of dimensionality reduction strike. His own psychic stab failed. It was just that his own psychic ability was defeated by the other party. It was not a problem of psychic powers. After all, psychic stab is only a level 1 psychic power. If his Shin level is higher, or he masters more powerful psychic powers, such as psychic explosion, psychic whip, etc., the result is still unknown. As for now, if the spell doesn't work and the psychic powers don't work, then use other ways to attack. It's time for the wizards in this world to understand how powerful the trapped demon is. Just then, Tonks' voice sounded in his ears. No, Brother Levin, I can't hold on any longer. Use your invincible homemade magic to find a way. Look up. At this time, Tonks was pale. Her pink hair was messy, and she looked very embarrassed. She and Piccolo are not rivals of the same level at all. She had to resist every attack from the opponent with all her strength. If it weren't for the amazing reflexes, after a few rounds, she would face defeat. And now, she can't hold on much longer. Leave it to me, Sister Tonks. Levin calmly looked at the enemy in front of him. Grease technique. Armor protection. Huh? Hearing Levin chanting the curse, Piccolo instinctively wanted to block, but he missed it. Is this a summoning spell, or a transformation spell? Just when he was wondering, he suddenly felt his foot slip and almost lost his balance. At the same time, the pink-haired Ira's attack also followed. He who originally had the advantage was immediately in a panic and almost fell to the ground. He had to kneel on his knees and hold himself up with one hand. The remaining hand was able to release the iron armor curse, which prevented him from being stolen. Piccolo looked down and discovered that he was covered in a thick layer of oil within a few meters of him. It was this sudden appearance of oil that almost caused him to slip. Thinking that he almost overturned because of this small amount of oil, Piccolo became angry. It's a small trick. How dare you try something so simple? He glared at Levin and waved the magic with all his strength. Thunderbolt explosion. Armor protection. Tonks took a step forward and blocked the blow for Levin, but she could no longer hold on and flew out of the hospital. You're blocking well, my cousin. What about this move? Shattered to pieces. Following the vicious words, a second red light flew out from the tip of Piccolo's staff. After casting the explosive curse, he was able to resist the shaking after casting the spell, and then used their crushing curse, like Tonks. You know, although the wizard, Qian Lihao, can cast spells at will without considering the spell slots, but there are limits to their spellcasting. Just like an engine overheating with continuous use of powerful spells is also very costly for a powerful wizard like Piccolo. In a short period of time, he could only maintain an uncomfortable posture and lie on the oil layer. But for Piccolo, the price is acceptable, because this time, Tonks had no chance to use their iron armor curse to protect herself. 2 annoying enemies will soon be reduced to 1. Seeing that this red light containing terrifying magic power was about to hit Tonks' body and blow the female Ira to pieces, Levin actually dodged and stood in front of Tonks without even using the iron armor curse. Crushing curse hit him directly, bursting out with a burst of red light. Gee. It's such a touching brother-sister relationship. How can someone actually use their body to block their crushing curse? I'm so moved that I cried. Seeing this scene, Piccolo laughed evilly. If I were to find one thing to fill this room with, it would be you, because you're going to be everywhere. Chapter 49. Arcane. Destroy the enemy. As the red light dissipates, the smoke disappears. Piccolo suddenly discovered that the Levin in front of him was intact. But, how is it possible? Someone could force him to hit a full power, crushing curse, without being damaged or anything like that. Not even Voldemort can do it, right? How old does the little wizard in front of me look? Seeing Piccolo's confused face, Levin smiled coldly. You know nothing about arcane magic. Except for the large defensive magic circle imposed inside Hogwarts, there are no continuous defensive spells in the world of Harry Potter. Most of them are armor protection, which requires active defense. This results in wizards always needing to focus part of their attention on defense. When you see the enemy attacking, raise your shield. Even masters like Dumbledore and the Dark Lord are no exception. But arcane magic is not like that. In arcane magic, there is no shortage of frost armor, a shield that lasts for a long time, has a fixed amount of shield, and can offset damage. There is also a defensive spell that reduces damage to each attack. In short, after casting, you can sit back and relax for a period of time. For a cautious person like Levin, the most important thing when he goes out for adventure is to keep his buff full at all times. As long as he goes out, spells like frost armor and mage armor are almost always on him. Their crushing curse, shot at 420 just now, was completely eaten by frost armor. After being reduced by Mage armor. The price is that their frost armor is completely shattered, while Levin remains unscathed. If Pico launches another attack at this time, even with a simple disarming curse, Levin may not be able to block it. It's a pity that Pico has no chance, because under the protection of frost armor, Levin's spell has been brewed, and he was standing in the grease. His mobility was greatly slowed down. Hot Ray, another spell that Pico had never seen before, appeared in front of him. Levin's wand did not emit a pill-shaped magic entity, but an orange-red ray that shone with blazing light. The moment the rays hit Piccolo, he felt as if he was being pulled to the surface of the sun. Armor protection. Resisting the discomfort, Pico once again used their iron armor curse to try to defend against the ray attack. He almost succeeded. The shield of iron armor curse indeed blocked the hot ray, preventing him from being hit by this laser-like attack. But he didn't expect that scorching ray was different from ordinary magic spells. It is not a one-time injury, but a continuous injury, even at Levin's current level. The ray lasts only 1 second. Levin had already predicted that his hot ray would be blocked, so after casting the spell, he waved the wand directly and guided the ray to sweep across Pico's body from top to bottom. This time, Pico used the high-end skill of picking on iron armor curse, which has now become his weakness. Using the picking technique to activate iron armor curse can indeed save mana as much as possible to offset the enemy's attack. But this also means that the coverage area of iron armor curse is too small. This flaw is not a concern when facing a single point of damage. But there was a huge loophole in front of the scorching ray. From the waist to the thigh, the part of Pico that was not covered by their iron armor curse was directly hit by the ray, causing severe burns. The wound directly turned into charcoal, and the smell of barbecue was in the air. But before Pico could cry out in pain, something worse happened. Hot ray directly affected the oil surface produced by the greasy technique. So under the action of high temperature, the thick oil surface was directly ignited. In an instant, the fire rose. The surrounding area of Pico was almost in flames. Grease, control plus fire elemental spell ignition. The classic spell combination of the arcane mage now shines in the world of Harry Potter. The high temperature around him made Piccolo squeal. When he almost fell down after losing his balance, many parts of his body were stained with oil. These oil stains were originally just ordinary stains, but after the sea of fire rose, it immediately turned into the reminder. The fire rising under his feet and the fire ignited on his body turned Pico into a burning man. He was originally so proud and arrogant, but now he can only howl like a wild dog and run away randomly. When he escaped from the fire, his body was covered with burns and his whole body was like black coal. But even so, Levin did not let him go. He fired a disarming spell directly at him. The red light flashed, and Pico's wand flew high into the air, and was held by Levin. But the dark wizard flew 3 meters away under the impact of the curse. This scene left Tonks, who had just climbed up, stunned. Pico, the dignified poacher leader and a powerful figure in the underworld, was actually taken care of by a first-year student like you. She looked at the handsome boy with a smile in front of her and couldn't help but admire. As expected of you, Levin, your self-created magic is indeed amazing. Right. Levin heard this and suddenly felt proud. So when the time comes, you have to study hard with me as a teacher. After you learn how to do it, you can kill people in the era job, all the way. Gao Sheng. Yes, so it's all up to you, my little teacher. Tonks happily cooperated with his little pride. Suddenly, her expression changed and she hurriedly said, be careful behind you. Aren't all the enemies subdued? If you shout caution at this time, what should you be careful of? Levin looked back in confusion, and saw a giant charred wolf with its hair numb and burnt, rushing toward him from behind. Although the giant wolf was seriously injured, his movements were not slow at all, and his ferocious attacks were full of momentum. Levin could even see all the sharp teeth in its huge mouth, as well as the splash of wolf saliva. At this time, their frost armor on his body had just been broken, and he had not had time to replenish a new one. With only their mage armor, Levin could not guarantee that he could block the wolf's bite. In desperation, he suddenly dodged to the right, but it's still a step too late. The giant wolf didn't bite him, but its huge body directly hit Levin's shoulder, knocking him to the ground. Even the wand in his hand was knocked out. Damn it, without a wand, my spellcasting ability has been reduced by more than half. Levin was a little panicked for a moment. But this wave of attacks is not over yet. The giant wolf missed the attack, quickly turned around after landing, and flew towards Levin for the second time. At this time, Levin fell to the ground and lost the ability to move. There was no wand in his hand, and most of his spellcasting ability was gone. Is it difficult to block the wolf's mouth with fists? He doesn't want this. In this critical moment, Levin had no choice but to force himself to cast the spell without a staff. In this case, the only thing I can use is the expulsion curse. Retreat the enemy 3 feet. Just when Levin wanted to forcefully cast the expelling curse, without a wand, a flash of inspiration suddenly occurred in his heart. He thought of the wandless spellcasting method called handprint that he had heard of before in the magical world of Africa and the East. Why don't I replace the spell and wand with hand seals, and then extract the simplest and most direct part of the spell and combine it into a simple interpretation technique that can be used in an emergency with 10 hand seals. Chapter 50 Alder Seal. You combined Mudra spellcasting with the basic elements of magic and discovered a way to cast simple spells through Mudra. You have understood the Igni Seal through Fire-making Curse. You have understood the Conceal through Iron Armor Curse. You have understood the Seal of Arden through Obstacle Technique. You have understood Alder Seal through Expelling Curse. You have understood Yaxidama through Suggestion. Igni, Active Seal, mainly strengthened. This seal can incinerate enemies by spitting out flames, or can be used to ignite firewood, bombs or campfires. 1. Passive Seal, forming a mana shield around the caster, making him temporarily unable to be harmed and absorbing physical damage. Hidden, Active Seal. This is a magic trap set on the surface or floor. Hidden Seal can produce different effects on enemies, including pain, bleeding, slowing, paralysis, etc. Ard, Active Seal, a kind of release telekinesis, used to repel, stun, knock down or even disarm opponents. Exe, Active Sigil, which allows the caster to influence the minds of others, to charm and control others, or to comfort frightened creatures. Actually understood the Dharma Seal of the Demon Hunter world. Levin was pleasantly surprised. The seal is a good magic. Although it has a single function, it is very simple to cast a spell. It can be cast by raising your hand. It is only a ring in the spell table, but the actual effect is determined by the input magic power. It is especially suitable for emergencies and the magic warriors who like to carry a sword with one hand and cast spells with the other. In short, it's the Gryfind or Ecstasy spell. Now, of course, Levin should be the first to be ecstatic. The giant wolf didn't know that in just a moment, the prey, which was obviously helpless to fight back, suddenly understood a spell that could perfectly resist this scene. When Levin raised his hand, he didn't even need to recite the curse, and a powerful impact burst out from his palm. Seal of Alder. Caught off guard, the giant wolf that rushed towards him flew backwards in an even more embarrassing posture and fell to the ground. Before it could get up, Tonks' attack arrived. Split into pieces. Seeing Levin being attacked, the angry Tonks ignored him and even used black magic. The charred giant wolf was hit by the curse, and the entire body of the wolf was torn into pieces. This sudden crisis is finally over. Just when Tonks stepped forward to confirm Levin's status, in their eyes, the body of the giant wolf suddenly turned into a human corpse. That apostrophe S. Pickle Curtis. The two sides fought for so long, even if it turned into ashes, Tonks could still recognize its identity. This giant wolf turns out to be Pickle Curtis. Levin turned his head. Where Pickle was knocked away by him, the body belonging to Pickle Curtis was no longer there. I didn't expect it. Pickle Curtis is actually a hidden animagus, and he has not been exposed for so many years. Tonks couldn't help but sigh. He deceived everyone. So much it seems that there is an explanation for the reason why he was able to escape from the Eras several times. As expected of the leader of Poachers, he always hides his secrets. Levin was also a little scared. He also didn't expect that this dark wizard didn't hide such a skill. I thought that by disarming the opponent's wand, the opponent would lose the ability to fight back. Who would have thought that he could transform into a giant wolf? And after a surprise attack, Levin would have overturned if he hadn't learned a new spell on the spot. Of course, with his physical quality blessed with a full set of attribute-enhancing spells, even if he is knocked down, it will only be a bite and a piece of flesh will be lost at most. In the magic world, it is just a minor injury. But this experience of almost overturning should be taken as a lesson. Never feel that you are sure of victory until the enemy's ability to resist is completely eliminated. Today, this group of poachers is dead, injured, and all have lost their ability to fight. The rest is easy. For the 3 poachers who were only injured by the explosion, Tonks confiscated their wands, searched them again, and then tied them up with ropes. Then, each of them applied a forgetting charm and a petrifying charm. Levin came to Pickle's body and found a bone pendant from his chest. What hangs in it is the griffin's beak. In addition, the most valuable thing on his body except a dragon skin bag is his water monster skin cloak that was burned to tatters. But Levin didn't think about taking any of these. Since he decided to give Tonks the credit for killing the poachers, he had to leave some evidence for this cheap sister. As for the loot, just search it on Pickle's men. As long as you don't go too far in this regard, the Era office will not care about it at all. This can be regarded as an unspoken rule among Eras, and is treated as a benefit for field personnel. In the end, the siblings divided the spoils equally, and Levin got about 800 galleons, which was another big gain. In addition, he also took a suitcase with a space extension spell cast on it. Compared with the previous dragon leather wallet, the space in this suitcase is much larger. It can almost fit a small room. This is not surprising. After all, it is a poacher's suitcase. As we all know, People who work on magical creatures usually carry very large space equipment. How else could it hold so many magical creatures? Magical creatures are not dead. They cannot all be crowded together. They need living space. After dealing with this, Wen came to the magic door. "Are you still looking for the treasure behind this door?" Tonks looked at the magic door and said curiously, "It took them so long to open this door. Can you do it alone?" Due to Levin's previous performance, in Tonks' eyes, he was almost omnipotent. From the female's point of view, no matter how exaggerated it is, it can be accomplished with Levin. So now, she doesn't dare to insist that Levin can't open this magic door. Just give it a try. There's no harm in giving it a try. Levin is very open-minded about whether this door can be opened. Please give me flowers. Anyway, the two main goals of this trip, to obtain the Griffin Peak and to win over Tonks, have been achieved. Getting the Scholar Moonstone is just a bonus. Furthermore, Tonks had cast the Oblivion Charm on every living prisoner. If he really couldn't figure it out, he could hide the ruins for future excavation. Scholar G didn't know how to solve the problem himself. But after checking the magic door, Levin then realized, your luck has come. Don't look at this magic door. On the surface, it is full of complicated seals and spells. People who don't understand magic patterns can't open it at all. But after Levin used his spiritual power to detect it, he discovered that all the spells are concentrated on the surface, and no spells are cast on the inner mechanism of the magic door. The opening mechanism of this door is, if the spell on the surface is broken, the mechanism on the surface of the door will be opened, and the mechanism will be transmitted to the inside, so the entire door will be opened. But what if Levin skips the surface spells and mechanisms and directly triggers the internal mechanisms? Of course this door will also open. This design mistake is too big. You must know that the principles of the modern lock opening spell are completely different from those of the first two generations of unlocking spells. Open Sesame, and Open Door. Open the Doorway, is the most popular lock opening spell before Open the Aloho Cave. The effect of this spell is to smash the door lock directly, thereby achieving the effect of breaking the door, but sometimes it will leave a smoking hole in the keyhole. Earlier there was Open Sesame, which had the effect of tearing the door off its hinges and making a huge noise. The effect of these spells is really rough. Compared with thieves, robbers will favor such spells. The modern, Aloho opening, is suitable for petty theft, because it opens the lock by directly unlocking the internal mechanism. The whole process does not cause any damage, so it is easy to restore everything to its original state. Modern anti-theft magic locks naturally have to deal with Aloho cave opening, such as casting spells on both internal and external components so that they will not be affected by Aloho cave opening. Naturally, the magic door in front of us does not have such an exquisite design, but it also has a way to solve the same situation. That is to prevent the magic effects from outside the door from invading the inside through the magic patterns covering the surface of the door. Since the magic power cannot act inside, Aloho cave opening loses its effect. However, the problem also lies here. If Levin wants to directly control the internal machinery, there is no need for Aloho cave. His psychic powers can do this as well. Your magic shield can shield magic power, but it can't shield our psychic energy. The ancients who built this ruins did not expect that there would be freaks like Levin in the future. So Levin just stood in front of the magic door. Put your rear close to the magic door. Let your mind explore the mechanical structure inside the door. After about half an hour of trying, just listen to a click. The internal structure was finally adjusted to the right place by Levin. The mechanism on the door rotated. The heavy magic door just rumbling opened.